Good morning, everyone. Hello. Welcome to today's video. Today's stream will be concise, maybe short, but definitely sweet. I hope you all had a good weekend. Hope you had a good Monday yesterday. Obviously, at the top of the stream, since we're talking about pretty serious topics today, just want to give a friendly trigger warning to today's topic surrounding racism and news from Palestine. Also, just to remind people that this is a philosophy channel. We do philosophy through pop culture. My name is Brittany Simon. We are attempting to explain why the world throughout history has maintained a specific level of violence and bigotry, and why human beings have not learned very simple concepts around acceptance, like not judging people for their skin color, not judging people for their sexual orientation. You know, we've talked about, especially if you're somebody like me who's come from a very Republican immigrant family who's religious, that we love our religious family, we're kind to our neighbors, and also we want to hold people accountable with the hope that they'll get better and be less bigoted, right? That we hope that by holding people accountable, we free them from feeling a need to hold on to prejudice and bigotry in the name of their religion or politics. And we want to remind people that though other people on the internet might be doing certain things, here on this channel, we do not advocate for violence. We advocate for harm reduction. We advocate for, making the world a better place. And hopefully that comes from deep understanding. And it also means that we have to stand up for ourselves when people try to gaslight us into believing that history wasn't painted by very racist people, okay? And that ultimately we will not be lied to or tricked about the way that America as a country has upheld heroes who have been incredibly cruel and vindictive throughout their lived life, and that history tries to remember them as these like great men, but these great men were very horrible people, right? And also for all those people who are already in chat harassing me and everything like that, you will be reported like every other death threat that I have received over the last weekend from these so-called free speech advocates. So obviously, a part of us can be afraid and should be afraid and concerned that conservative people like Laura Loomer are making a list of people that she thinks deserves harassment and maybe death, considering that making a hit list of people that said that they, believe Charlie Kirk to be a bad person, right? The fact that you all are making a list and speaking out and getting people fired is exactly the issue. And so reminder that I am in a position of privilege, and though it is scary to live in a world where I call out racism or bigotry or transphobia could get you on a list, just a reminder that this has been history since day one and that we need to do something about it by healing the wounds in ourselves. Report these people, report the list, report the website, complain to Squarespace, do what you need to do. But if I, in a position of privilege, can't even make a video because I'm afraid for my life, because of the way Republicans are reacting, because Charlie Kirk's legacy has inspired violence, then that's, you know what I mean? Who else is going to have a chance? Like, how are we ever going to have a chance of righting history's wrongs and doing better if people like me can't even feel comfortable enough to make a stream? And I'm not saying you shouldn't feel afraid. I'm saying that not everyone can do what I can do. So if you're not in this position, if this is not your job, if you work for a company, I understand you not putting yourself at risk. But this is my job. I am my own boss, and I am in a position of privilege to come here and just remind you that though Charlie Kirk has died, and that is very sad that gun violence has led to this man's death, that conservative policy, Republican policy, and the continuing demonization of each other has led to Charlie Kirk's death, that I will not let them rewrite his history and make him out to be a martyr, because he certainly wasn't one. And if he was one, then whoever he's martyred for, bad group of people, okay? Charlie Kirk died a bad man, and that is sad. Okay, thank you guys for joining memberships today. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys for being here. I do appreciate that as well. Let's start off with a little humor from our, Christian divine. And then we'll get started. It's going to be pretty heavy today, okay?
Fascist, so he was clearly on the left. He was anti-fascist, so he was clearly on the left. Well, actually, some of those references are more you just say?
Love it. Love a little humor. He was obviously anti-fascist, so he was obviously on the left. Is that good or bad? Is it good to be anti-fascist? It's interesting, isn't it, that we live in a world where when I say things like, you know, we should respect people's pronouns, I'm a gross person. When I say things like we should feed the homeless or give people places to live who are unhoused, or we should fix mental health, or we should give people, you know, a better education, people are like, oh, disgusting. That's the issue, is that one group of people, and not to make a monolithic experience out of politics, but let's say one side of the aisle is trying to advocate for people to get support, and the other side is annoyed they have to pay for people's like kids' school lunches. It's like, okay, girls, come on now. Right? Chet said, my brother said yesterday that he was a terrible person, but if you support the killing, you're supporting gun violence. And I think that's a good way to summarize it. I think ultimately the issue is that even slight criticism of Charlie is allowing people to argue that we're celebrating his death. I in no way or shape or form celebrated Charlie Kirk's death, but I do believe he died a bad person. And I think if that's enough for you to feel a need to like harass and dox people, like that's a testament to your values. The fact that you don't want to contend with reality that he was a bad person is because you identify with his beliefs. Thank you guys for joining memberships. I see you. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. And thank you so much, Kid Rants, for the super chat. I appreciate that, guys. Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate you guys. So again, I do not believe bad people should die. I take a radical stance against the death penalty, a radical stance against harm reduction at any cost. I believe that we should advocate for people to live long enough to change. And we also believe in holding people accountable, but we believe that accountability should lead to an outcome of less bigotry, less hate, right? So I want you to remember that if you're watching my channel, I do not believe bad people should die, but that doesn't make you less of a bad person. And I do believe in self-defense like most Republicans do. We're just arguing about what that looks like. I do not condone what the shooter did, because what the shooter did was incredibly selfish. And he most likely did it for the meme. It's disgusting that he put all of the people there at that event into a position of definitely needing counseling for a very long time, right? And so we have to remember that, you know, you don't have to celebrate Charlie Kirk's death in order to point out the bigger issue here, which is like, even if I just say I had an issue with him as a person, it's leading to threats against people's lives. So I put out a video and I got like 2,000 comments from people who couldn't even get through. The average watch time on my video was 30 seconds. Just process that information for me, that after like 50,000 views, 30-second average watch time, and over 2,000 comments telling me to kill myself or that I'm a horrible person. Process that information. These people gave my video a 30-second watch and then decided to either claim to report me, claim to, you know, say that gay people were horrible or trans people were demons. So again, like, we're not dealing with a good faith part of the population, and still I would not want bad on them. And still I wish you no harm. Still I wish you a belly fed and a house over your roof over your head, education, and you know, safety for your kids when they go to school. Okay, that's the dilemma. Chad said, quick question, Brittany, would we say then that we don't advocate for violence when it's not in self-defense? Listen, advocating for violence is different than saying sometimes life requires violence. Like when you kill a cow to eat a burger, right? Now we could argue, is it a requirement for us to kill a cow to eat a burger? This is what we're supposed to be arguing. Okay, violence is a reality of life, but it isn't always a need, and it is too often the first choice people make is to engage in violence. And I'm saying stop doing that, okay? We should not default. This comes from patriarchy, right? Patriarchy defaults that violence is the answer because men often, you know, they argue that men are good because they're strong, because they're violent, because they're capable. But you have to understand, a lot of these communities that revolted against like their slave owners revolted in a form of violence to free themselves, which was justified out of self-defense. But they wouldn't be in that position in the first place if white men didn't enslave them, like, or men in general, let's be honest. So let's process that information, that you cannot argue that a slave should not fight back against its slave owner or their slave owner or whoever, like, because the slave owner is the bad person. So the justification that any person, any slave in a global sense, right? Global sense, because it's not just black people, right? Slavery is global and it's rampant, right? But Black people in particular get targeted, harassed, and they are being threatened right now. Black colleges are being shut down. They just found a boy, basically 22, hanging from a tree. We have to be very careful here, okay? So we have to remember that when they say like, who freed the slaves? White people. That's not a brag. Who gave women the right to vote? That's not a brag. We shouldn't be having to fight for our basic rights. We shouldn't have to be fighting this hard for a seat at the table. This is the issue. So they're rewriting history, right? They're rewriting history to say like, oh, well, you know, and look at people putting slurs in my chat right now. You're getting blocked. I'm going to block you so fast you won't even have a chance. Okay? People putting the N-word in my chat, you will be blocked. Okay? You will be blocked. No transphobia, no homophobia, no Islamophobia, none of it. The issue is that this is not a good faith argument. I'm going to cover this today. JD Vance getting on Kirk's show yesterday and blaming the left and saying the left is responsible for most of the violence in this country is literally not even factually true. And the fact that the vice president gets to get up there and say that with no data to prove it is ridiculous. Ridiculous. Yes, they did find 2 people hanging from a tree. That is accurate. I don't know why. We don't know what happened yet. But the fact that it happened right now, the fact that the 4, as far as I know, 4 colleges have been shut down for safety, we have to talk about it, okay? So again, yes, Chad, exactly. How can you save someone from a system you created? Exactly. So JD Vance getting up here and blaming the left when statistically we literally are anti-guns. We want to feed and clothe people. Remember, this is why I say be careful of how you act. But remember, no matter how you act, no matter how perfect you will be, they don't care. They will come for you. And that's the difference. If you're bigoted, it doesn't matter how well somebody acts. You still won't see them as a person. Okay, so let's go over it here. Just listen to this. Fox News covered this just within the last 24 hours.
Welcome back. If nothing else, Charlie Kirk was an activist of free speech, traveling the country to engage with college students to debate policy and talk about this great nation of ours and freedoms. He was an early supporter of Truth Social and Rumble and warned about the cancel culture of liberal Democrats and the pressure that the Biden administration put on social media companies to cancel Republicans. His assassination is putting a renewed focus on America's values and freedom. A top State Department official is now warning that it will revoke the visas of foreigners in the United States who glorify violence and hatred for America. Joining me right now is the CEO of Trump.
Okay, so how are you guys the advocates of free speech? Well, you're advocating to make lists for people who didn't agree with Charlie Kirk and to get them fired from their jobs. Explain it to me, okay? Look at this.
Asked me that question. It's a perfect timing because Chris, I'm glad you asked me that question. It's a perfect timing because with respect to Ken made a very good point about rejecting violence. I agree with Ken. The problem, of course, is that Ken's former boss, Donald Trump, pardoned a bunch of politically violent people earlier this year. He's even dangled pardons in front of the kidnappers.
So did Joe Biden.
The attempt to, I'm not here to defend Joe Biden, but Donald.
That's the difference between liberals and leftists. I've never voted for Joe Biden, but people will assume I have because I'm a leftist. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm saying we make and pick our, I'm not saying you're a bad person if you voted for Joe Biden, but we know Joe Biden did nothing to save Palestinians. We know he is a liberal through and through. That's the difference between understanding these niche communities. This is also why this fact that the shooter might be a graper is so confusing for people, because you don't understand that, like, you saying, oh, he was a liberal. Like, it doesn't, okay, he might have been a liberal more than he would ever be a leftist. Like, you understand this, right? Like, ultimately, this is the issue people are going to have, is they don't understand what a liberal is, what a leftist is, what a graper is, what a MAGA person is, what a conservative is, what a Republican is. They don't understand the nuances between all these bubbles. And this is why I say pay attention to the nuance, but yet pay attention to that Dean, our blonde white boy Dean, came out and said, if you push me, I will choose the right. Remember these liberals, these centrists, when it gets uncomfortable for them and people push back on them, they go right back to the conservatives. So remember this when I say it, the difference between a liberal and a progressive is no matter the pressure they feel from their own communities, they don't all of a sudden become a fascist. No matter how much pressure I will get, I will never then turn around and be like, I guess I'll be racist now. I guess, wow, the left is so pressuring me. I guess I'm going to vote for a rapist now. Oh my God, the left is so critical of my work. I guess I'm just going to, I guess I'm going to be homophobic now. This is the dilemma. Is the answer to you being criticized by the left is not then, I guess I'll be a Republican. What are you doing? You can stand up for yourself if you feel like they're wrong. If you feel like the left is incorrectly criticizing you, then contend with ideas. The result should not be, I guess I'm going to be, Anna Kasparian vibes. Exactly. So Anna and all these people who are like, the left is being mean to me, I guess I'll be a fascist now. Like, what are we talking about? Like, what are we talking about, right? Chad said, more of a philosophical question. I am a leftist, so I don't want to give off the wrong tone, but I guess it does matter. If we zoom out, what political affiliation was, what you mean? Are you asking what does it matter? What political affiliation the guy was? Well, the only thing that matters is that we talk about what led to the situation, right? That's what we need to talk about, is what leads to young men on the internet getting radicalized enough to take a gun and kill somebody in public. Like, I don't know why we're not acting like this is the craziest thing we've ever seen. Like, time and time again, not this one incident, but time and time again, young men feeling entitled to murdering, killing people and all these things. So it matters what he believes. It doesn't really matter that I don't even think he's registered to vote last time I checked about the shooter. It's not about him being political. It's about the fact that he was raised in a bubble and within a culture who, like, again, example, I grew up in a Republican household. I never knew where my dad's guns were. My dad kept them locked away. I did not know where to this day, I do not know where my dad keeps his guns. I assume in the safe. I don't know. Okay. I also grew up shooting guns, but barely. I think I've shot a gun maybe once or twice. So I don't even know anything about guns like that. My farm brother, who's raising his kids in the country on a farm, doesn't even let his kids play with toy guns because he never wants them to mistake a real gun for a toy and shoot somebody. So like, we all grew up differently. Okay. And I was shocked, by the way, because I almost bought a toy gun for my nephews thinking that's what would be appropriate for their cultural bubble. And my brother was like, no, we don't do toy guns. No toy guns. Guns are not toys. And I was like, damn, okay. Very responsible of you. And that's the difference. The difference is there are families who gift guns to their kids, like most of the school shooters that we've seen, a lot of them, I shouldn't say most, many of the school shooters we have seen were gifted those guns before legal age by their parents. So you have to remember that in order to stop gun violence, we must also understand that we are raising our kids, giving them way too much of a benefit of the doubt. Well, my kid wouldn't do this. You don't know that. You don't know that your kid wouldn't do this. And that's also the problem, is like the reason we don't let kids own guns is because they're not mature enough to handle the responsibility. It doesn't help that adults are also kind of proving that they also are not ready for the responsibility, right? Okay. Discord said, quote from Ernest Hemingway, misogynist, "There are many who do not know they are fascists, but will find it out when the time comes." Yeah. Love me some Hemingway. Diehard misogynist. Literally was so angry his wife was a better reporter than him, divorced. So, you know what I'm saying? All of these men we want to make heroes, even the concept of a hero is sort of a myth, right? It's a myth around this idea that, like, look at this one thing I did, or listen to me when I say this. All of us encompass bad parts. We must do better. Okay. But we also have to make sure that we understand that we're raised in a bad culture, And again, some of the nicest people I know are conservatives. They will clothe you and feed you while they advocate against your civil rights. Niceness is not good. I mean, it's good when we're like driving down a highway. It's less good when we go to the poll boxes, right? When we cast our vote. So again, we need to think about that. We need to think about the reality that some of the nicest people we will meet, be kind to your neighbors, but hold your politicians accountable. We shouldn't be killing each other, but we all have to understand that Charlie Kirk died a bad person. He literally died trying to free the man who killed George Floyd, saying that George Floyd died from a drug overdose versus the knee on his neck. I need you to process that Charlie Kirk did everything in his power to free people who killed people in this country. Every Republican and conservative who lets cops get away with killing innocent citizens or even guilty ones is guilty of perpetuating a system of violence. We are not perfect. Human beings as a whole are incredibly flawed. We have to do better. But we all have to do better. But it's not analogous to say he was killed for his opinions. He wasn't killed for his opinions. That's not what he was killed for. We actually don't technically know what he was killed for. But at the end of the day, like saying, oh, he just had opinions. Charlie Kirk did not just have opinions. Guys, racism is not just an opinion. I've heard that my whole life from Republicans. It's just an opinion. It's just my opinion. Okay, but I think you're a bad person, and that's not just my opinion. So your opinion can be black people are less than, but my opinion can't be you're a racist. Well, that's just my opinion. Why am I a racist for my opinion? Well, because your opinion is racist.
Trump pardoned a bunch of political extremists who attacked the Capitol, and he's also, Chris, dangled pardons in front of the people who wanted to kidnap and maybe kill Gretchen Whitmer, like horrible political.
And by the way, I say this to people so they can maybe one day not be racist, not so we can make an excuse to hurt them. Do not hurt people. And I only say you're a racist, so one day you'll be like, oh my God, have I been racist? I don't think of myself as a racist. Maybe I should be better. Have you ever thought about maybe that my hope is that you won't be racist one day by realizing, oh my God, I've been racist?
Extremists, he's talked about pardoning them as well. So that's a real problem. And we need the president, as you said in your introduction, to really lead on this and use this killing of his friend to say, you know what, all of us tone it down. This is a president who's called his enemies scum, vermin, animals. You know, Chris, better than me what he's called his political enemies, including you. So that's what we need from the president. We're not getting it from the president. We're getting more kind of talk of pardons. The other issue which you asked about Charlie.
Again, when you say George Floyd committed a crime and was resisting arrest, I do not think resisting arrest should ever be a crime. I think you should legally be allowed to resist arrest. You should be allowed to resist arrest from the police, period. I don't think police officers have the right to harass you, illegally arrest you, or make up a crime to arrest you. We've seen it time and time again. Police officers are not educated or trained enough to de-escalate situations, and they take advantage of their positions of power. And the fact that this administration wants to give them more power is bullshit. George Floyd didn't deserve to die because he committed a crime. You do not deserve to die because you commit a crime. Do you not run red lights sometimes? Have you never rolled through a stop sign? You ever smoked weed before it was legal? You do not deserve to die because you committed a crime. You do not deserve to die because you committed a crime. I don't care what it was. And also, wasn't he literally, I don't want to get into it. The point is that George Floyd didn't deserve to die, period. Charlie Kirk didn't deserve to die. Period. That doesn't mean he didn't die a bad person. Okay? Most of us will die bad people. That's what I'm saying. It would be so rare for us to die good people. Okay? That's what I'm trying to get you to understand. We have to meditate on this. We have got to meditate and understand that we are all complicit in the way that the world is. The world cannot be this awful without our participation. On a macro, we are all complicit. And on the micro, some of us are actually making efforts to be better people. Okay? And that's the problem.
Charlie Kirk. Look, I differ from you on this, Chris, and this is what we argued on Twitter. I think public figures are not private figures. I think public figures, when they die, of course we should be respectful to their families. I've said time and again that it breaks my heart to think about what his children are going through, what his widow is going through. It's horrific what happened to him. I can't even watch that video. I refuse to watch that video of what happened to him. But he's a public figure. I'm a public figure. Chris, you're a public figure. When we die, people are going to look at what we said and say, well, I agreed with him on this, I agreed with him on that. And the problem is Ken and the right are trying to almost deify him. What Ken just said is not true, that Charlie never called for violence, that Charlie was level. Charlie called for me to be deported from America because he didn't like a monologue I did on COVID. He called for Joe Biden to be executed by death penalty. We can go down the list. I know you don't want to hear. Let's not make this a Charlie Kirk rhetoric thing. But I don't know what else to say. When I hear Ken saying things that I think are untrue, then I have to respond. You know me, Chris, it's in my nature. I have to respond and say, well, that's not true. Here are the facts. Just last week, the day before he died, the day before he was brutally murdered, he said that Islam is the sword the left is using to slit the throat of America. I don't think that's rhetoric that people should be emulating. I find that deeply offensive. Obviously, it doesn't justify killing him. Nothing justifies killing him. But please don't tell me that he was a level-headed person who never insulted or abused anyone. That's just not true.
Exactly.
He asked for people to post bail on the guy who attacked Paul Pelosi in his home, a violent extremist, Trump supporter.
Exactly. Every time someone does something horribly violent in this country, if they're on Charlie Kirk's side, he'll advocate for his freedom. That's what we're saying. He's making a great point, and that's what I want you to focus on. Okay? Minnie's making a great point here. Don't rewrite his history the way you rewrite every bad man's history. Don't let them rewrite bad man's history.
Election denier who attacked Paul Pelosi in his home is now in prison for attempted murder. Charlie called for bail to be posted for him by an American hero. So that's the kind of rhetoric I don't think we need or emulate.
Mehdi, what is the difference? What is the difference between telling the truth and rationalizing the murder? That's why I talk about time, place, and manner. That when you say, look, this is unacceptable, but he said a lot of terrible things, it sounds like you're not as upset that he was murdered because he said those things.
With respect, Chris, that's not what I said. I said...
You don't have to be upset that he's murdered to know that it's wrong. You don't have to be upset somebody died in order to know it's wrong. It doesn't have to upset you in order to know that it's wrong. This need for us to have to be upset he died doesn't make any sense. We don't have to be upset that he died in order to know that it was wrong he died. And the fact that people are saying this is the issue. We are not obligated. You're not obligated to be sad bin Laden died. You are not obligated to feel sad about that. But you should be concerned what led up to 9/11 and acting like America was innocent in their own participation in destabilizing the Middle East is ridiculous. Again, it's not about saying, oh, are you saying it's my fault? Are you victim blaming me? We're not victim blaming you, Habibi. We're saying the world is a reflection of us as a whole. If a woman comes to you, Charlie Kirk said women are lying about their rapes. He said women are lying about being raped. Do people lie? Yes. But statistically, it is less likely that they are lying about their rapes. He said with his full chest, women are lying about their rapes, and there's no way they're being raped at the same rate that they claim that is happening. Okay. This is why we'll never get anything done, because you can't allow the truth to be the truth. And this includes people that aren't healed enough yet to settle the fact that violence is not the answer, unless it is in a very special position of self-defense, which we are all rarely in, by the way. It is rare that we are in a position of self-defense. But when we are in a position of self-defense, we can't even defend ourselves without being called wrong. We are now put in a position where even when we defend ourselves in a clear position of self-defense, we're wrong. So again, if the worst thing these people did was not be sad Charlie Kirk died, and the worst thing Charlie Kirk did was advocate for bad people to be free, for the January 6 people to be free, for the subjugation of women and gay people and trans people, okay, for the mocking of Palestinian people, right? I think there's a difference here. You see how there's a moral and ethical difference here? One group is not sad someone died and maybe is even happy about it. Okay, we can talk about the ethics about that person experiencing joy over death. That's definitely something that should be deconstructed. But on the other side, and this is what's important, this man was a raging racist, a homophobe and a transphobe and a misogynist. And his wife's speech about his death was filled with calls to action. She said to his viewers, Charlie loved you. You know what he'd want you to do. What in the world does that mean? She says in her speech, we covered it yesterday on stream. She says in her speech, okay, they responsible for my husband's death will pay. Who is the they? Who is the they? For her to say, you know what Charlie would want you to do? I'm sorry. What are we talking about here? And the fact that Charlie Kirk fans got on the internet and tattooed themselves with I am Charlie, got on the internet and said, I've just been waiting for this. So yeah, you can sit here and pretend that people on the internet, not sad he died, or people on the internet pointing out he died by person, or getting on the internet, getting people fired from their jobs for saying like, yeah, I'm not sad he died. He advocated for lack of gun restriction. To say that they are analogous, equivalent, one-to-one is wrong. You are deeply wrong. And that is the problem.
His murder is inexcusable. I've said that consistently, as have we all. But I was responding to Ken saying that Charlie was X, Y, Z. If Ken and the right, and Ken, I'm not picking on you, but the right in general, were not treating him like a new MLK. I'm seeing people saying he was a literal saint. He should have a statue put up in Congress. Chris, am I supposed to just let that go and not say, we probably shouldn't have a statue in Congress for a man who says Islam is a religion being used to slit the throat of the West, that Muslims like me are conquerors? This is the kind of stuff he said. Am I supposed to not respond to that political rhetoric?
And also note that leftists do hold our own accountable. We can look at our own civil rights leaders and look at people and point out all the ways they were wrong, misogynistic or transphobic, and still point out that they died fighting for the, like, example, Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr. died literally for something that we're still struggling with today, which is to give Black communities any sort of seat at the table, which they don't even have yet. And that's what's so crazy. They died so Black people could just get a seat at the table. Charlie Kirk died in the energy in which he advocated the reality that he would rather have guns than gun regulation. He even said that some people have to die to keep guns legal. I don't know how he didn't think he might be one of those people. Why do you think we want gun regulation? We don't want to die. So the fact that Charlie Kirk was willing to sacrifice your lives and our lives just to maintain gun rights. And by the way, we don't even need to get rid of guns completely. We need to regulate guns and the accessibility they have in the hands of very unhealed white men who tend to shoot up schools when they're upset, who are killing kids. A shooting happened the same day, right? So again, like, it is so disingenuous to sit here and be like, oh, he's like Martin Luther King. He died for what he believed in. Martin Luther King Jr. was killed for saying, like, black people deserve a seat at the table, that they shouldn't be hung in the streets, so they shouldn't be killed. They should be able to sit on a goddamn bus. And Charlie Kirk died being racist, talking about gang violence. You know the biggest gang in America, right? It's called the cops. Like, what are we talking about here, sir? I am an American citizen. I pay tax. I have the right to say that my taxes should go towards helping the citizens, not murdering them and hunting them down. I have the right to demand that our police actually start properly policing communities and actually start helping people. I have the right as an American citizen to tell my politicians I expect better from you. I pay you. You are under my employment, and I have the right to say, hello, you need to do better on behalf of us. And the fact that we cannot come out and say that we expect better from this administration is ridiculous.
Thank you for watching.
Okay, that's the end of that video. Next video. Okay, a little humor, guys. Let's take a breather. A little breather, okay? A little humor.
Ago, somebody died. I made a little jokey joke online. It was an old bit I had about Luigi Mangione and assassination. And I woke up and it turns out my name and my face and all my social media were plastered over all these conservative accounts. Laura Loomer retweeted me. I started to get harassed and all these racist comments and death threats. Now that I've had like a day or so to process this all, the message I got the most was, where's your next show? And I understand that these people were threatening to murder me. But I've also been doing stand-up almost 11 years to like very little financial success. And I gotta say, it's nice to hear people ask that question for once. Like, can I sell some tickets now? Like, do I have fans? And wouldn't it be so awesome if they came wanting to kill me and I made them laugh and they're like, oh, he's not too bad. You should have seen the comments. One was like, we gotta make sure Netflix knows we will never support his special. I'm pretty sure they're already on that page. They're not calling me. These people think more highly of me than I do. I don't even know who Charlie Kirk is. My joke wasn't even about him. Come to find out, he's like white racist Kobe. Like, they just fucking love this guy, man. And now that he's gone, you can't say anything negative about him. You know what I found out during this whole episode? A lot of people that wish me harm have Yahoo email addresses. So I think it's fair to say they're not going to accomplish anything. Also, my favorite is like, a lot of people will threaten to kill you with full names and photos of their entire family publicly available on Instagram. It's not the sharpest bunch.
Okay, that was cute, right? A little humor, a little humor. How about another one? A little humor.
Charlie Kirk died. Yeah. Charlie Kirk died. Yeah. I think we can all agree that like nobody should like die for their point of view. We agree with that? Yeah. And my point of view is that nigga had it coming. So don't me for that. If you disagree, let's have a discussion. I think my main issue, like a lot of people are like, hey, we should people for what they do, never for their words, right? Like the issue with that is like, what if your words incite action? Like Hitler technically never did anything, but we don't think that Hitler is nonviolent. So like you can't be like, I'm a pacifist. Also, I think everybody should have a gun. And remember, your enemies are black people.
People on TikTok were saying like, you know, it's very Charles Manson-esque, where like Charles Manson didn't kill Sharon Tate, but we still held him accountable for the way that he influenced people to be violent. All right, JD Vance on Charlie Kirk's show yesterday, almost 2 million views, streamed 2 hours for Charlie Kirk, his quote, friend Charlie Kirk. Okay, his friend Charlie Kirk. He brings up a point about Charlie Kirk. This is the point that he makes. Somebody summarized it into a TikTok. And then with the response of Charlie, and I want to talk about it today. This is how, listen, I genuinely believe, this is what I believe, because I do philosophy through pop culture. Let me explain it to you, and then I'm going to explain why I'm showing you this. Okay, first, we all live in bubbles, okay? Sometimes these bubbles overlap, okay, where there's shared language and shared understanding, but often we're actually kind of separated, okay? And sometimes if you're like me, you like hang out in different bubbles to kind of see what like people are up to. And you're like, oh, damn, these people are kind of similar. These people are very far off. These people are weird. And everyone exists in like different bubbles with different language and different understanding of what's real and what words mean. So sometimes you'll see me on stream trying to, in very good faith, explain where people are coming from, right? You'll see me like, quote, defend a lot of people, but I'm not defending it. I'm explaining it, but people don't know the difference, okay? You'll get confused. Where does Brittany stand? Sometimes I see her saying nice things about Ethan Klein, and sometimes I see her saying nice things about Hassan, and then sometimes I see her saying mean things about these people, and I'm just confused. Where did Brittany stand? I'm just trying to figure out what's true while y'all are trying to figure out which side to be on. And I'm trying to figure out what's true because that will tell me which direction to move in, okay? So let me explain to you why, in bad faith, people are having this conversation about Black women and Charlie Kirk's racist remarks about them. So JD Vance gets on stream last night and says this.
Accuses Charlie of saying, and I quote, "Black women do not have brain processing power to be taken seriously." But if you go and watch the clip, the very clip she links to, you realize he never said anything like that. He never uttered those words.
Okay, right? Here's the clip. And by the way, I did on my own research find both clips independent of each other, but then I found this TikTok which did it together. So that's why I'm using this TikTok.
If we would have said that Joy Reid and Michelle Obama and Sheila Jackson Lee and Ketanji Brown Jackson were affirmative action picks, we would have been called the racist. But now they're coming out and they're saying it for us. They're coming out and they're saying, I'm only here because of affirmative action. Yeah, we know. You do not have the brain processing power to otherwise be taken really seriously. You had to go steal a white person's slot to go be taken somewhat seriously.
Okay. So people are saying, so this is what Republicans think in their bubble. They're saying Charlie Kirk, and the comments are a testament to this, these women are the only Black women he was talking about. But then, wouldn't that make sense that then he was talking about a specific white person he had proved that they took their job from? Except they don't understand that affirmative action in DEI doesn't take jobs away from white people. There's empty job slots available, and they go looking for qualified people of color to offer the slots to who would have been just as qualified as somebody else who happened to be white. Except because white people are dominant in workforces, in order to balance it out, we're going after qualified people who happen to be Black to put them in those positions to help diversify the workforce, because representation matters. So in order for Charlie Kirk, right, to be not racist, he would have to understand that affirmative action in DEI is not hiring unqualified, is not picking unqualified candidates in the first place. But since he believes it is picking unqualified people to fill those slots, of a, quote, just random general white person, it is therefore racist. So for other people, I've even seen Black people defend this, and I will not highlight them today because God knows they are suffering from internalized racism. And I'm so sorry. I get it. Okay? I see it in my own family as coming from an Assyrian background. I see it from my own family. I see it from gay people all around me, trans people all around me. You guys are suffering from the internalized racism and transphobia. I can't even begin to explain it to you. But obviously, he was speaking for Black women in general. He was literally saying Black women in general. Anyone associated with DI or affirmative action. Michelle Obama. You think Michelle Obama doesn't have the, quote, brain processing power? Charlie Kirk? That's racism, guys. That's all it is. And the fact that I have to pull teeth getting you to understand this is the problem. Thank you so much, Kitten Rants, for the super chat. Appreciate you. Okay? So again, this is the dilemma. And by the way, if you meet a lot of leftists and progressives, they're not even fans of these programs because, guys, we wouldn't need them if we didn't live in a racist America. The fact that we need these programs is because of racism. If we didn't live in racist America, we wouldn't need the programs. And until, and that's a problem. They know that, by the way. They know that. Okay, yesterday we covered this on stream. A lot of white Americans are starting to talk about this pretty heavily. That, yeah, white people are having these conversations. They don't like us. They don't like brown people, Black people, immigrants. They don't like trans people or gay people. To your face, they're the nicest people who have ever existed. But behind closed doors, they are wishing for your demise. How sad is that? How sad is that? Okay, here's another video.
You call me a white supremacist. What evidence do you have that I'm a racist?
I was just literally watching a video of you talking about whiteness as a whole, talking about whiteness as a concept, okay? And you were trying to explain how white privilege doesn't exist.
Correct, it doesn't.
You are a white man. How do you know?
What can a white person do that a Black person can't do?
So this is a common talking point from conservative people. And look, I grew up Republican. I used to make arguments like this. So I know, as a token immigrant family who was picked up by the Republican Party, I know, because I used to make arguments like this. I used to make arguments very long time ago. I'm 36 now. This was when I was a teenager. I used to make arguments that women should be president because they get periods. So as a person who came from that bubble, here's the truth of it. No one actually believes it. Do you know why? Because the women in my family worked. I was working. My father raised me to run a business. We don't actually believe it, but we double down on it, and we decide to support candidates that will double down on this policy, even when it doesn't show up in our own life. This traditional stay-at-home mom stuff doesn't even make sense because our moms worked. Now, my mom didn't work for some of the time I was a child, okay? But my mother works now, and she worked before, even when my brothers were kids, okay? So again, when we're having conversations about this, you have to understand conservative people will literally talk about traditional marriage while expecting their women to work 60 hours a week and do 50% of the chores. So I know that they don't really believe it, but they believe it enough to double down. Okay. When I talk to people, what I think is the problem is they really struggle to understand how they can be racist while also like voting for a racist person. Right. And I think they struggle. Like, okay, I'll give a better example, even though we know Trump is racist. Trump is found liable for sexual assault. Okay. They refuse to believe it. They're like, no. And I'm like, why not? And they're like, well, he's the greater of two evils. So I voted for him, and I think it's a lie from the Democrats. And I'm like, okay, what if he's on the Epstein list? And they'll say, well, what if Bill Clinton's on the Epstein list? Okay, great. Get him too. Like, they don't want to believe that the person they're supporting or voted for, they don't want to believe they've fallen for the propaganda. It's why they're really great conspiracy theorists. Right? Like, they don't want to believe they're falling for the propaganda. But see, here's the problem. They think leftists are liberals. Liberals fall for the propaganda. That's why Ezra Klein's collabing with Ben Shapiro. It's why he said that thing about Charlie Kirk doing politics right. That's why Bernie Sanders had the audacity to show up on his YouTube channel and say that Charlie Kirk, we have to like keep his legacy alive of talking to people across the aisle. Yeah, those are liberals. Conservatives are angry at liberals, and they should be. Liberals are bad people because they support bad institutions. But that doesn't mean they deserve to die. That means they deserve the right to read a book and get educated and understand that, like, hey, like, you're supporting racism, you're supporting fascism. There's no such thing as good Republican policy. Be good to your Republican neighbors. Hold your Republican politicians accountable. Okay? That's the dilemma. Gay people, you should not be in Christian churches. Black people, you should not be worshiping Jesus. And I've seen Black Christians come out and say that they do not support Charlie Kirk, and I support them in that endeavor. But ultimately, you should deconstruct this church that has no incentive for you, that is not there for your goodness. And you should ask yourself, why do I get to believe in a man rose from the dead and a man was God, but they don't get to believe that their gender is fluid? You need to ask yourself that question. Because a lot of conservatives are also people of color like my family. And a lot of them every day talk about how God is their savior, Jesus is their Lord and Savior. And Jesus gets to exist genderless, but their daughter can't. Okay? So again, we have to pay attention. No one should die for what they believe in. But see, that's not why Charlie Kirk died, did he? Charlie Kirk didn't die for what he believed in. He died because we don't have enough gun reform in this country. He died because they decided to build tension and cause tension. He died for the meme. He died because men are so lonely. They spend so much time on the internet and they don't touch grass. He died because a family probably wasn't paying too much attention to their kids. We know even when we get past these big issues like racism and segregation and transphobia, guys, once we get past these huge issues like genocide, we still have all of the issues within our family structures. We still have generational curses and trauma. We still have so much to work on, depression and anxiety and all these things. None of that goes away just because we solved the big issues. Let's say we magically solved climate change. Great. There's so many other things we have to solve because we're not having a good relationship with self. We need to deconstruct, meditate on us, what it means to be a person on a planet, and really examine the reality that we have so much power to be good to one another. We have so much strength and power to be kind to one another. We have so many opportunities to be good to one another. But we cannot be good to one another if we believe the way you were born makes you evil. Men aren't bad because they were born men. They're corrupted by the patriarchy and the systems around them that tell them that they're only good if they're violent. to tell them they're only good if they're misogynists, to tell them that they're weak when they cry. Okay, so we need to acknowledge that. But this legacy reworking of Charlie Kirk, this reframing of him being a good person is exactly what they try to do with the founding fathers. Oh, well, who freed the slaves? They shouldn't have been enslaved in the first place. Saying to yourself, well, who gave women the right to vote? Why didn't they have the right to vote in the first place? You're not a hero because you're like, I guess women can vote. I guess black people should be, I don't know, their own free agents in society. You're not a good person. You're a bad person. That's a bad thought. And you still don't deserve to die for it. But you cannot in any way think staying alive and staying racist is good for you or the world. Okay, finishing out this clip.
Black applicants to jobs are 50% less likely to get jobs if they have a black-sounding name.
That's not even close to being true. That's not even close to being true.
That is a literal...
in fact, it's the opposite.
I'm not going to argue your lived experience. I'm not going to... No.
See, now you have to listen to him under your rules because a black person is going to say you're wrong.
I am. He can say I'm wrong. I know.
Come on up to the mic.
I know. I read your...
my name's Keemon Dixon. I have a really black name. Please tell me how 50% of my internships have been denied when I've worked for Senator Mike Lee, Mayor Trent Sachs, Speaker Mike Schultz.
Hold on.
I worked for a Congressman, Burgess Owens. I've actually worked on his campaign. I've worked on the campaigns of John Huntsman Jr. Please tell me how my black experience and my black name has not given me...
Okay. Obviously, okay, this is really common for people to say that their one lived experience expresses and relates to the system's experience. So obviously, this is a logical fallacy, and this is the dilemma with, again, deconstruction. Okay? I understand that you as an individual have had this lived experience, and I thank you for sharing that lived experience. That lived experience would be sort of a unique lived experience, and maybe not for the reasons you think, right? So we have to remember that this is a common issue with human brains, that we generally do think our lived experience is universal, our pain is universal, our struggle is universal, but it's not, it's ours. Now, some people in terms of large to small numbers can relate to that lived experience and therefore making it the majority minority. So as an example, when I meet Christians who are like, I'm really afraid to be a Christian white man in America. What do you mean by that? And they'll say, well, I'm just afraid to speak my truth because I feel like people will hate me. Does your truth engage in homophobia and transphobia and racism? And they'll say, well, my truth engages in the word of God. Okay, does your God engage in transphobia, racism, and homophobia? Right? So when we have these conversations, we have to understand that you have to first understand your own belief systems and how people come to a conclusion of what these things are. Like when I talk to my religious family and they say, well, I'm not homophobic. I was like, you are homophobic. You don't think gay people should get married or have kids. And they'll say, well, that's because I'm Catholic, but that's not homophobia. I'm not afraid of gay people. Homophobia is not being afraid of gay people. Even though internally you probably are worried about gay people and that's why you don't want to give them any status in society because you're worried, quote, they will become the norm, right? Okay, so when we're having these conversations, we have to understand that your lived experience is valid, and I hear you. How does your lived experience map onto the wider lived experience of people who feel like the system is against them, and we have stats to show it? Okay? All right, so there's that. Now, here's this video. I showed it on stream yesterday. I'll show it again today.
George Zimmerman was hunted at night by Trayvon Martin at 2 a.m. George Zimmerman was hunted at night by Trayvon Martin at 2 a.m. And the stand your ground law allows you to stand your ground up against people that wish you harm.
I know Kirk fans are like, Brittany, what about the context? What about the context? Guys, the context does not help your case. I know people are like, how much of Charlie Kirk have you watched? Way more than you would think. You have to understand, I am a special interest autistic girly who watches hours and hours and hours of people, usually before I write them off. Sometimes I even read their books because I am eagerly desperate to understand you. Okay? So again, we have to remember that this is Charlie Kirk and this is his legacy, and you cannot rework it for me. There is not enough context. This is the context. That Zimmerman was a hero in Kirk's mind and Trayvon Martin was a murderer, even though it was literally the opposite. It was literally the 911 call makes it clear that Zimmerman stalked Trayvon Martin. He never deserved to die that night. Nobody deserves to die. That doesn't mean in cases of what they're trying to make this out to be, self-defense, that doesn't happen, but you should still mourn the people you have to be in a position to kill. It's like when you hear about military soldiers like meeting other people from an opposing side and they're like, man, in another life we could have been friends. You could still be friends in this life, stupid. That's what I'm saying. Why do you have enemies? We should have no enemies. There should be no one who has an enemy on earth. You are not my enemy. But you're acting like you don't put us in a position of being pushed into a corner. And you're like, why are you, if I'm going to push you into a corner as a bully, why are you fighting back? You're like literally bullying people into a corner and wondering why they're fighting back. Remember that in an ideal progressive world, religious people get to exist in their own ways. And remember, in their ideal world, we don't. And remember that Charlie Kirk hated Islam and hated Muslims. He hates 1 billion people on this planet. And he has the audacity to sit here and talk about how the left is advocating for violence because we're calling out homophobia and transphobia. And yes, we hold our Muslim brothers and sisters also accountable for the way their patriarchal religion ends up being bigoted. But we do not allow Islamophobia in this chat or in my community. You cannot be Islamophobic. Okay, you cannot point to Muslims and be like, oh, well, Muslims are anti-gays. They hate gay people. So do Christians. So does Charlie Kirk. He advocated for it time and time again. Anti-Islam rhetoric, anti-Palestinian rhetoric. Well, his religion advocates for the same stuff. Guys, Abrahamic religions, they're all the same. Okay, they're all the same. Charlie Kirk, this is him speaking at a Bold Men United night. This is Generational Church. This is Charlie Kirk on Palestine. And I know a lot of people said, oh, before he died, he was going against Israel. He's a white supremacist. Candace Owens supports white supremacy. Them being all of a sudden pro-Palestine has nothing to do with Palestinians. They're using the plight and genocide of Palestinians to push their white supremacist narratives. Free Palestine.
This is a cultural question that starts out by, I want to just thinking about what happened on October 7th with the attack in Israel, which was done by evil, demonic terrorists. Many Americans have been shocked to see so much support for Hamas coming from organizations that are these progressive organizations like BLM. And I've been seeing all this rift amongst left-leaning social progressives where half of them are going, how are you guys supporting Hamas, these evil terrorists? And it seems like it's causing this rift within progressive culture. Like, what do you think that's going to do to progressives in the years to come here?
It's an important question. So there's something called intersectionality. We'll talk about that in just a second. It's fun to point this out, especially when I visit college campuses, so you guys don't have to, right? So I visit over 150. You're welcome, by the way. I was just at U of A. That was interesting, and ASU, NAU, and I'm going to UCLA next week, and we do a lot of work there. So it's always fun. I get a chuckle, when someone is wearing the Free Palestine shirt and the gay flag, and
it's like, they would literally murder you, right?
So it's funny. I used to say that, hey, if you as a gay person would go to Gaza, they'd throw you off of tall buildings, right? Now they don't have any tall buildings left, so I don't.
Trigger warning for my viewers. No trigger warnings for Charlie Kirk fans since they don't seem to want them. Okay, trigger warning. 1, 2, 3.
This was Sham Couday just a few weeks ago on August 9th. She's all skin and bones in the video shot by AP freelance journalist Mariam Daga, who was later killed in an Israeli airstrike on the hospital where Sham was being treated. The toddler, though, was one of the lucky ones. After a year of waiting, her medical evacuation requested by the WHO as part of the European Civil Protection Mechanism was finally approved by Israel. And she's now being treated at a hospital in Naples, Italy.
Just before arriving here, Sham's situation was critical. She lost a lot of weight. She weighed around 4 kilograms. She was always tired and lying down on the mattress and hardly moving.
Her mother explained that doctors in Gaza believe Sham was suffering from a rare genetic condition that was made worse by a lack of food, but they couldn't test for it. Her doctor in Italy confirmed the diagnosis and says he's happy with her progress so far.
Sham's clinical state was challenging when she arrived, especially because of nutrition problems, but also because of her underlying conditions, which is a form of metabolic disorder that interferes with the absorption of certain substances. We started to improve her condition with food and other nutrients, such as vitamins.
The 2-year-old now alert sits up in her bed and continues to gain weight on a new diet that includes a special porridge. Sham is one of 181 Palestinian children being treated in Italy. According to the UN, nearly 12,000 children in Gaza under the age of 5 were suffering from acute malnutrition in July.
Okay, so Just remember that, right? Okay, one more clip to show you.
Says Israel has committed genocide. The United Nations investigation team says Israel has committed genocide against Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. The Independent International Commission of Inquiry was established by the UN Human Rights Council in May 2021. The inquiry concluded Israel has committed 4 of the 5 genocidal acts defined under international law. The intentional killing of a group, deliberately inflicting conditions designed to destroy it, causing it serious physical or mental harm, or preventing births. The report also concludes Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, President Isaac Herzog, and former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant deliberately incited genocide. This is the first time a UN Commission of Inquiry has used the word genocide in relation to Gaza.
Okay, in relation to Gaza, okay? To that chatter in chat who said, I'm black, Charlie Kirk isn't racist, and I say so because I'm black, with peace and love.
No, it's funny. I used to say that, hey, if you as a gay person would go to Gaza, they'd throw you off of tall buildings, right? Now they don't have any tall buildings left, so I don't.
When you mess with the bull, you get the horns.
Is that too soon? I'm sorry. Maybe you shouldn't kill Jews, stupid Muslims.
I like that. I like that.
Where was I? So, yeah, intersectionality. So that's fun to point out, and it's necessary to point out, right? But it's a lot deeper than that. It's about a common enemy, right? So Islam is a political ideology masquerading as a religion. I'll be very honest. I think we as Christians have not done a good enough job educating our flock on what Islam is. What does the Bible say about it?
Charlie Kirk died advocating for Christianity to become policy in the United States. His religion is also a political movement and a religion. Remember that.
Islam, where does it come from? How is it at odds with the...
No Islamophobia in the chat, guys. You cannot agree with him, okay, about him being right about Islam when he's wrong about Islam, because that's what Christianity is. You're either all of that about all Abrahamic religions, either all religions or none of the religions. But the Abrahamic religions, the 3 religions who are always causing a fucking mess on the planet, also are fighting each other. I refuse to engage in Islamophobia in the name of Christianity, but I won't be an anti-Christian. I'm not anti-religion. I really am not an anti-religious person. Do I think it's the best decision to make? No, I don't. I think there's a lot of reasons I could make it make sense. But do not agree with Charlie Kirk and be like, well, he was right about this one thing. He was right about that. He was right about nothing. Because everything he's saying is propaganda. Everything he's saying is going to come at the expense of you and yours. Okay? If Christian people get to exist, Muslim people have to exist. Period. And also, Muslim people come in all shapes and sizes as well, just like Christians. There's no difference between Christianity and Islam. They're all the same. Okay? They're all the same. Okay? They have good people, they have bad people, they have homophobes, they have not homophobes, there's modern Christians, modern Muslims, there's all kinds of people. Do I think ultimately no person should follow a religion in the sense that a patriarchal one, or one led by a man who says he rose from the dead, or one made by a man who says he is in communion with God? Sure, we could talk about all of that. We could talk about all of that. But none of that matters if this man is going to weaponize Christians against Muslims as if Muslims and Christians aren't the same. Okay? And as people who come from backgrounds where our families are Muslim or Christian or Catholic or Jewish or any of these things, we love our family members and we want nothing bad to happen to them. But also, you cannot let your family members say, oh, this guy with this religion is bad, but mine's the right one. So, okay, you just got lucky enough to be the right person, right? Got it. Oh, Chad says, does he not know about the Crusades? Oh, well, see, coming from a Catholic background, Assyrians from the Middle East, from West Asia. Okay, my parents would say the Crusades were Christians defending themselves against Muslims. They saved the world from Islam. Because my parents believe in Islamophobia. My parents are Islamophobic, even though they're from Iraq. Because ultimately, Catholicism and Christianity is Islamophobic. And yeah, maybe Islam is, I don't know, anti-Christian or something. I've never read the Quran. But you have to pay attention to the fact that, like, it doesn't matter at the end of the day because it's all the same at the root of it. And you guys can't pit it up against each other because ultimately, like, hello, the only difference here is that Christians they're avoiding responsibility with what's happening in Gaza because they're Muslims. They don't care about Muslims. And I'm saying, as an atheistic queer person, no one should be genocided, and therefore free Palestine. I'm saying how funny that the Christians are ignoring the genocide in Gaza, but the atheist queer people are like, hey, that's wrong, bros. And that's the difference. That's the key difference. We don't want people who oppose us to be genocided. You do. You're more than happy to see Muslims be genocided because in your mind they deserve it. You're more than happy to see black people killed and hung in the streets because you think they deserve it. You're more than happy to see trans people and gay people, okay, be taken away their rights, be killed because you think they deserve it. I don't think bad people deserve bad things. I don't think Charlie Kirk deserved to die. I don't think anyone deserves to die. Okay? No one deserves to die. And that's the difference between you and me. And hopefully that's the difference between my community and their community. We don't hopefully want people to die. We want people to get better. We want people to become better. That's all I want for people is to be better. And you can't be better while advocating for this bullshit on stage against 1 billion people on the planet. Muslims are 1 billion people. You think every single one of them is evil and bad? 1 billion people? Now look, I know this confuses people because people said, well, Brittany, you said people are bad. Yes, in the same way that we're all bad. See how we're all complicit? Aren't you religious? Christian people believe we're all sinners. What do you think you're saying when you say everybody's a sinner? You're saying everybody's bad. Except, in your loophole, God killed himself to save you from your own sin. So what? You don't have to do anything now? Okay? That's what I'm saying. We are all sinners. We're all bad people. But that doesn't mean we can't be better. That doesn't mean we can't be better. And I highly doubt that being better could ever look the way that Charlie Kirk is this person. How is this good? Okay?
Promises Christianity. How is Allah different than Jesus? Who is Muhammad? What did he do? And, people say I'm Islamophobic or I'm pro-Christian, which by definition means I don't believe in fake religions.
Hold on. Chet said, nah, sin is a myth to me. Well, obviously we don't believe in sin. But if you exist on the planet and you don't think you're impacted by the world that raised you, you're delusional. That is what we're talking about. Guys, the world is a bad place and it raised us badly. It raised us traumatized and racist and transphobic and homophobic. It raised us being anti-sex work and all of the things. It raised us being bigoted. You don't get to exist in the world and not be impacted by its evil. You have to deconstruct. We're all victims of the environment we're raised in. So you don't have to believe in sin. I don't literally believe in sin. But you don't get to exist in the world and think, well, I'm a good person and I've never done anything bad. No, we've all done something bad. The question is, what did you do to make it better?
So I just think we have to do a better job, especially now this is kind of center point. Just what does the Bible say? What do we believe? What do they believe? What do they believe? What do we believe, right? I think that's really important. Comparing and contrasting the life of Muhammad, who married a 9-year-old, was a genocidal maniac, and was, sold people into sex slavery with the ministry of Jesus Christ.
I'm sorry, interesting that Muhammad is a genocidal maniac, but you just made fun of Palestinians not having buildings anymore because they're being genocided. Interesting. He called abortion worse than the Holocaust. Interesting.
That's important, but I'm not.
That was one of the hardest things for me as a young pastor. Anytime I talk.
Yeah. Also, how old was Mary? Thank you. How old was Mary? How many Catholic priests have been caught? How many times have they had to pay out millions and millions and millions of dollars to victims through the Catholic Church? Interesting.
About a false religion. I would get Christians in the church who would get upset with me. And I'm like, you realize that if Jesus is the only way to heaven, then by default, every other religion not only comes from hell, but leads back to hell. So we have to acknowledge that.
Remember, I said Charlie Kirk was a bad person, and they believe we're going to hell. They literally believe in literal hell. Charlie Kirk thinks we're all going to hell. Is that a good person? Do good people think people are going to hell? Does a good God send people to hell? Does a righteous God send people to burn in all of eternity after forcing them to exist in the first place? I don't know about that.
I don't want to belabor this, but there's so many just simple moral differences.
And also, you remember Christians and Catholics don't believe that Christians killed people of color around the globe if they didn't convert. Remember that they are indoctrinated into believing that Christians have never killed somebody for not being Christian. They literally believe that. And I know because I was raised in it. I was raised in a bubble that never believed Christians killed people for not being Christian. And I said, yes, they did. And they said, no, they would never do that. the Christians would never kill other people just for being different. And I was like, didn't you just say during the Crusades they killed all the Muslims? And they'll say, yeah, but they didn't kill them because they weren't Christian. They killed them because they wanted to get rid of Christianity. I'm like, oh, okay, sure.
Between Islam and Christianity. The theological ones are even easier, but the moral ones are, I mean, just who is Jesus Christ is the most simple one, right? We believe.
Who is Jesus Christ? Who is he? Did you know him? Have you ever met him? Have you ever shaked his hand? Who is Jesus Christ? Who is he? Do you personally know him? Have you met him? Have you talked to him? Who is he? Great question.
Jesus Christ is Lord. At best, they'll think he's a prophet. But anyway, let's table that. So Islam is a political ideology masquerading as a religion. Progressivism is a religion masquerading as a political ideology.
That's good.
I'm sorry, progressives again want to feed the hungry, clothe people, and house people. Who does that sound like? Who does that sound like? Wait, pause, let me put it together. Who said feed the poor and the hungry? Who was that bitch? I know that bitch was somebody. Who was that bitch? I cannot remember for the life of me.
That's good.
And they have in common an ethos of hatred of the great Satan, which is the West. And you live in what they call the great Satan, which is America. And they hate America because we were founded on the inerrant word of God and the promises articulated in the word of God. The book of Deuteronomy was by far the most quoted book in the founding of America by America's founding fathers. By far, secular or religious book, by the way. This idea of charity, defense of the innocent, separation of powers, independent judiciary. They don't just come ex nihilo out of nothing. They were an outgrowth of the word of God. And so what the people of the Palestinian Authority and what the leftists have in common is not, the homosexual thing or whatever. They hate us so much that they're willing to create what they call an intersectional coalition to link arms together to destroy the great Satan. Yep. And
Pourquoi?
it really is a war for the West, is what it is. And I see it happening on college campuses every single day. And it's very serious. I can go as deep as you'd like to go, Ryan, but, we as the church built the West, right? 55 out of 56 signers of the Declaration of Independence were Bible-believing, church-attending Christians. We have a Christian inheritance here in the West.
How many of them raped their enslaved people? How many of those men raped anybody? How many of those people were racist? Go. Again, I say to you, and I know it is not my place, and I know Black content creators are already doing the work, but I'm just going to parrot what they said. To Black communities that are still worshiping the same God the enslavers worshipped. Pourquoi? Pourquoi? Pourquoi?
That we must realize is easily taken away if the church does not take its rightful role. So some people criticize me. They say, Charlie, you're too political to be speaking in a church. And I say, well, okay, well then what do you make of Esther, Mordecai, Daniel, Nehemiah, Jeremiah, and Joseph, who were obviously political figures who were counselors to the king? Yeah. And they say, well, we only want to preach the gospel. And I say, well, is the gospel the red letter Bible of only things that Jesus said, or is the gospel the entirety of the word of God and the promises of God's story from creation to fall to redemption to salvation to reclamation of everything that God created? And I don't think we should have a myopic view of the scriptures. You must have a comprehensive view of the scriptures. It's either Jesus is the king of your entire life, or he's only the king in charge of things that you decide for him for your life. So Jesus should be in charge of your marriage, in charge of your church, in charge of your political decisions, right? In charge of how you act in every single regard.
I just talked to my brother about this. We're going to take a break from talking for a while. I love him, but we're going to take a break. And he said, I believe you should exist in the world. Like, I believe in you existing. I was like, but your religion doesn't. And he said, yeah, but you should respect my religion the way I respect you. If your religion is political, he's like, it has to be, because my religion is my morals. I said, okay, your morals are bad. He's like, so you think my religion is bad? I was like, if your morals are anti-gay and transphobic, yes, I think they're bad. And he was just like, but why? And I was like, you're looking at a queer sibling and you wonder why I think that might be bad. And he said, yeah, but I think you deserve to live. Like, I think you should have jobs and live in the world, but I also think you're sinning. And I was like, I know. But if you're voting for policy that is taking away my rights, and God forbid there's like internment camps and I get picked up, what are you going to say then? He's like, well, I fight against that, obviously. Like, I don't think you should be put in a camp. Right. Like, they don't get it that that's what is coming. That's what Charlie Kirk preached before he died, is that he wanted to take away people's rights to be a part of society. And your religion, this religion right here that he's saying, is that billions of people on the planet don't deserve to exist because they're evil. And I'm saying, even though you're bad, I think you have the right to exist, and I hope you exist as a better person later. Okay? But that's the dilemma. These churches need to be deconstructed. I don't think you should be a modern Christian or Catholic. I don't think you should be a gay Christian or Catholic. I don't even think you should be Black Christian or Catholic. I think you need to deconstruct how these religions are made up by men who do not care about you. And they are maintained by white men who are, maybe you can call it co-opting, but they are officially becoming the loudest people on microphones about Christianity, and they 100% do not plan to bring you along. So you can sit there and say Jesus would have cared about me. Jesus is a man who existed and he's dead now. I don't know why you care what a man thinks. The fact that you believe a man rose from the dead, girl, we have got to talk. It's, you know what I'm saying? Like, please, to all my Christian gays out there, what are you doing? How is this helping you? How is this freeing you? How is this liberating you? To believe a man who existed 2,000 years ago rose from the dead. How is this helping you? Because at the end of the day, your religion, this is the most powerful force in that religion. The most powerful force for the religion you say you believe in is literally kicking you out at every that woman in the UK who spoke up and Trump was mad at her for speaking up. Yeah, what are you doing, girl? Take off that silly little hat and get back to voguing with the rest of us. What are you doing? They will not love or accept you. And the biggest force in the name of your God is about to come kill you. Make a better decision.
Possible in charge of how you educate your kids. All these things are super important. So anyway, the West is under attack from multiple forces. It's attacked from the Chinese Communist Party, under attack by radical Islamic theocratic fascists. But let's be honest, the greatest attack is from within. The greatest attack is a mind virus that we are subsidizing on our university campuses. We're pumping in through our high schools, which I believe is from the pit of hell. It's where you get ideas that men can give birth, of deconstructionist, postmodernist ideology, of racial disharmony, of anti-Americanism. This anti-man, is an outgrowth of there. It's viewing the world through oppressor and oppressed. And the church is the last line of defense of civilization. If the church surrenders and does not fight, the civilization that your grandparents fought to preserve and protect will collapse. And that is not an exaggeration.
That's good. That's good.
I will not let you rewrite this man's legacy. And that's what they're trying to do. This man died a bigot. He died an evil man. And he was advocating for the destruction of billions of people on the planet. He just called billions of people, billions of Muslims, evil. He just called gay people, trans people, all these people. I will not let you rewrite this man's history. Okay? He died a bad person. Let's watch some TikToks. Take a breather.
I'm far from the first person to point this out, obviously, but isn't it just incredibly ironic that the same group of people who are insisting that Charlie Kirk is a martyr for free speech, someone to be emulated, someone to be respected, again, for their commitment to free speech, these same people are currently leading one of the most, I have to say, insane cancellation campaigns I've ever witnessed. Hounding and firing people, not for even insulting Kirk, although that's fine, but for simply repeating his words, for simply noting the things that he said of his own accord on his platforms, that he advocated for, that he called for, that he made the basis of his public persona. The Washington Post, in fact, just fired Karen Attiah, one of their columnists, for the offense of just posting Kirk's own words on social media. It appears, right, that if you try to honor Kirk's legacy by speaking freely about Charlie Kirk, you are liable to be suspended or fired or disciplined in one way, shape, or form or another. And the only way to avoid this is to shut up and praise Kirk in accordance with what appears to be the official state position on the Charlie Kirk death. You will praise him for his commitment to free speech, or else. Or else. It's absurd, and it's an indication of how so many self-proclaimed free speech warriors did not and do not care about free speech in and of itself. What they care about is their ability to speak freely. That's what free speech means to these people. They speak, you listen. And if you don't listen, then they'll make sure that you do.
So basically, if you haven't heard, people really have gotten fired. Like, people are being fired from their jobs. We'll talk about it. People are being targeted. Lists are being made. And that's the difference. It's not a difference of opinion. Saying that 1 billion Muslim people are evil, but Christianity isn't. It's different saying that, Islam is a patriarchal religion, but Muslim people are like, again, I know this is really hard for people to process. You can be a very good person and a very bad person at the same time. You can be a good person that advocates for bad things. I know we like to believe that since we're good, we can never do bad, but good people do bad things every day. Okay? I'm not anti-religious, but you will not see me here supporting or promoting it. I support your right to be Muslim. I support your right to be Christian. I do not support your right to spread hate. I do not support or respect your opinions about trans people or gay people or anything else. But I will never advocate for you to be locked up, targeted, limited. Like, I don't want you to be unable to be religious. I'm sad you're religious in some ways because I think it's like really bad, but I can see why you like it, but I can also see how it's harming people, but anytime you live in a world where people believe that they have a spiritual connection to a God and a visible person is talking to them, lying to like what's objectively right, it's just going to cause a lot of harm, guys. So again, like, our opinions are not the same. Me saying that like we should all be able to exist together is not the same as you saying, I want to be able to say trans people are evil. Like, this is not the same. This is not the same kinds of the thoughts. Okay. This is Kev on Stage. He's a comedian. I tend to like his TikToks in general, but I'm not like a huge fan. But he said something interesting in this TikTok. I want you to check it out.
This video is proof that Black history is not that long ago. This is...
Pause. He said, this is proof that Black history is not that long ago. I have to hold your hand when I say this, and I think Kevin knows this. It's right now. I'm so sorry, and I know Black communities are so fucking tired, and they're sick of seeing it. It's right now. Black history is right now. It's not that it was yesterday. It's that it's right now. And that's the dilemma. It's right now. We still haven't gone there. Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, they died for fighting for something that we still don't have yet. Okay? So for Charlie Kirk and all these people to sit there and be like, why are Black people complaining all the time? They have rights. Well, Charlie Kirk gets to say Michelle Obama doesn't have the processing brain power to be qualified to be who she is. What are we talking about? Okay?
Cecil Williams from that famous Whites Only picture, and he's walking in the Actively Black fashion show at New York Fashion Week. I went Friday. This is Ruby Bridges, the first African-American student at an elementary school in New Orleans. Ruby Bridges is younger than my grandma. She's 71. Feels like a long time ago. It's not really that long ago. Younger than my grandma. Ruby Bridges integrating schools in Louisiana, walking Actively Black history not that long ago. John Carlos, Tommy Smith from that famous Olympic picture with the Black Power fist. I seen them with my own eyes. Bernice King, Martin Luther King's daughter walking in the fashion show. Shout out to Lenny Smith, he's the owner of Actively Black.
Remember that Charlie Kirk said that the civil rights movement was a mistake? Remember Charlie Kirk said that Martin Luther King Jr. was a bad person? And remember that Charlie Kirk, at the end of the day, is a racist piece of shit. And it shouldn't be unfair for me to say that. It should not be wrong for me to say he died a racist. We are not the same. And if it's just my opinion, man, it's just my opinion, man. So you get to have an opinion that trans people are mentally ill, and I can't have an opinion that he died a racist. You get to have an opinion that Black women who happen to get jobs, even though that's not the right way to phrase it, through DI or affirmative action aren't qualified. Like, what are we talking about? Here's a more detailed news source for what Kev was just talking about. I showed this on stream yesterday. I'm going to show it again for people who didn't see it.
And they posted these very powerful images. I saw this on Instagram, and they posted these very powerful images of history makers walking the runway at a recent New York Fashion Week event. Ilyasa Shabazz, Malcolm X's daughter, and Dr. Bernice King, Martin Luther King Jr.'s daughter, were walking side by side. Then you had Cecil J. Williams looking as cool as ever. Back in 1956, he was photographed drinking from a whites-only water fountain. Then, of course, you have Benjamin Haith Jr. He created the Juneteenth flag. And look,
remember that Charlie Kirk said if you import the third world, you'll get the third world? He was talking about immigration to help with the dying population. He doesn't want you. He's racist.
Who else came through? Ruby Bridges. Back in 1960, she became the first African-American child to integrate all-white schools. And as a former track and field runner, I loved seeing Tommie Smith and John Carlos there. In 1968, after medaling in the Olympics, they raised their gloved fists in protest of racial injustice and also to bring awareness to poverty. Because of them, we can. What a beautiful tribute.
Okay, so again, what we're facing here is a reworking of history. Okay, so trigger warning, we're going to talk about some stuff that Trump is working on. Black history is being erased. They're trying to erase it from the history books. They're trying to say, they're trying to take away the imagery that reminds us of how bad things were, right? And I need you to process that they were pretty bad. So I'm going to show you an image that maybe you've seen, you should see, but it is a pretty intense photo of an enslaved person who has markings on his back from being whipped by men who, quote, these white men who freed the slaves, okay? So just get ready.
Post reports the administration has ordered multiple national parks to remove information about slavery, which is part of Trump's order to eliminate, quote, corrosive ideology. But this latest purge includes the removal of history at Harper's Ferry Park in West Virginia, where the abolitionist John Brown led a raid to attempt to arm slaves for a revolt. And also this iconic photograph known as the Scourged Back. It depicts a slave, likely named Peter Gordon, in 1863 and the wounds inflicted by his abusers. Now, at the time, the picture spread quickly in the North and showed people the true cruelty of slavery, something many wouldn't have seen otherwise. We'll say a spokesperson for the Department of the Interior says that the Washington Post report is based on anonymous sources. They're cautioning that it's unverified.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a piece with the broader project that the Trump administration has had for months. I mean, he tweeted in August about museums and wanting to remove images that weren't bright and spoke to hope and the future of the country. I find it all very strange because, for me, what more great American story is there than the survival and triumph over enslavement, Jim Crow, and the repercussions therefrom?
Okay, just remember, there are people who think this man's hair is unprofessional and he shouldn't be able to have it that way. We haven't gotten past kindergarten, not judging people on their skin color or how they wear their hair. Like, we are so not even there yet. And I say to you, please stop pretending like you're not racist when you can't handle the way a black person does their hair. Okay, or the fact that even I, as a person with white skin, a white person, gets told, oh, I look unorganized because I have curly hair. Okay? Don't even tell me we've gotten past it. We haven't. We haven't gotten past it. We have to keep talking about it. And I know white people go, oh, I have like a fatigue over being called racist. When are we going to stop having to teach our kid these lessons? Never. Every new baby needs to be taught about racism. Every new baby needs to be brought up better. You cannot just raise your kids and hope they turn out good. Okay, you have to actually teach them right from wrong, explain it to them. Babies every day are born and every day need to learn these lessons. Every day got to be told about segregation and all the things that people went through, right? Okay, next video.
People behind. She had to. Harriet Tubman left people behind. She had to. Not everybody wanted freedom. Some people were so married to the...
Hold on. TikTok does this thing where it makes a loading bar show up. Let me see if I can get rid of it by pressing enter. Hold on.
Harriet Tubman left people behind. She had to. Not everybody wanted freedom. Some people were so married to the plantation they'd fight you before they fought their master. And when I see all these Voldemort sympathizers crying and clutching their pearls, that's the same energy. Y'all ain't freedom fighters. Y'all are the Overseers fan club. Harriet didn't waste time dragging the unwilling. She knew that if you hesitate, you were going to put the whole mission at risk. You're going to slow down everybody that's trying to get free. And that's exactly what I am watching today. People pretending that Voldemort was just political views. But that can't be accurate because political views are about taxes, about policy, about what size the government should be. But what he pushed was hate. I'm not going to do the whole recap. We all know who he was. But I say all that to say that's not politics. And now we got people out here sobbing for him. defending him, writing think pieces like he was some misunderstood uncle. Please, he showed you who he was every single chance he got. And if you're still crying, it's because you agreed with the hate. You weren't blinded, you were just comfortable with the plantation. And here's what makes it worse, because your tears don't just make you look pathetic. They feed the system. They keep authoritarianism breathing. Every time you say he was just sharing his beliefs, what you're really saying is, I don't care who gets hurt, as long as I can stay close to power.
Ezra Klein, Bernie Sanders, Dean Withers. Every person in a position of power who came out and tried to build a bridge with Republicans after this.
I observe more than I speak, usually. And what I'm seeing right now? A lineup of Z-list actors auditioning for parts that no one asked them to play. Crying for a man that wouldn't have spit on them if they were on fire. You think that's loyalty? You think that's being a good Christian? All that is self-inflicted chains. That's begging to sit at the overseer's table and be grateful for scraps. So no, I am not mourning Voldemort. I'm not shedding a tear for a man who built his entire brand on tearing us down. What I am doing is thanking his little fan club. Because every time y'all expose yourselves, every time you choose the cage, you clear space on the railroad for somebody who actually wants to be free. Harriet understood it, and so do I. Freedom ain't for everybody. Some of y'all would rather die clutching your master's hand than to live free. And that, yeah, that's on you.
Okay, so listen to what she said. Harriet Tubman had to leave people behind. This is what it feels like for a lot of us right now. Okay, you want to know her TikTok? I'll give it to you. I'll put it in the chat, guys. Right now, you probably feel this way with your family. And I want to tell you that I feel a great sense of empathy with you right now. That you can give people a path, but you cannot force them to take it. I need you to know it's okay to let it go. To walk down the path. And if they don't follow behind you, it is what it is. Okay? This is what we're seeing right now. Our friends, our family, our loved ones, our neighbors. There's a line being drawn in the sand, and they're going to be on the wrong side of history. But even more than that, they were willing to throw you under the bus in the name of whatever their value system was. Maybe they're just arrogant. Maybe they're just angry. Maybe they're just embarrassed. But whatever it was, it's going to come at the expense of you and yours. So protect your peace, protect your mental health, protect yourself. There are billions of good people on this planet, billions of amazing people just like you. Billions of very good people are waiting to be your neighbors, are waiting to be your community. And so you must move, must migrate, must go to places in which you will be one of the good people in a way that makes you feel safe. And look, I'm not saying conservatives don't deserve a place to feel like good people and to feel safe. I just don't think it should come at the expense of minorities and other people around them. And that again is the difference, is that when religious people live in progressive communities, nobody's hunting them down. But when liberals, leftists, trans people live in spaces with Republicans, we're put on a list. We're put on a fucking list. I can't think of a time I could think of modern day progressives that have a list of people. Now, it's okay to say I'm unsubscribing. There might be a list of celebrities we're unsubscribing from, but that's what the worst we're doing is. Remember that progressives are making lists of celebrities to unfollow on social media. We're not making lists of their businesses. We're not making lists of their parents. We're not making lists of their workplaces. We're making a list of people to unfollow on TikTok. The lists are different. See how they're different? I think conservative people don't understand how deeply progressive kids are mourning right now, realizing like they'll never get to bond with their parents in the same way again. They'll never be able to sit at a family dinner the same way again. Progressive kids are in mourning. It is a part of grief to look at the people who made us, to look at the people we were raised with, to look at the people we built memories with and say, when it comes down to it, you will throw me under the bus. Even if you don't realize it now, you will do it because you've been doing it in a way that's been comfortable for you. That's just my opinion. That's just my politics. That's just my religion.
So I just got in a huge fight with my dad.
There's this TikTok by this
So I just got
guy.
in a huge-
This is very, very relatable to a lot of us. And I know it's easy for people to say, like, oh, stop talking to your family if they're a piece of shit. For those of us who know it's not that easy, we have to know it's also okay to grieve that there might come a time to stop talking. It doesn't always mean forever, but it's okay to walk away. And that's what you're doing. You're walking away. You can still love people and walk away. And heck, at the end of the day, the best thing to do is walk away. Because if you don't, it will escalate to violence. The greatest thing to mitigate violence is to just walk away. And that's what I'm asking everybody to do, especially conservatives. Walk away. You're angry Charlie Kirk died, walk away. Don't make lists. Don't hunt down people. Don't say, oh, I've been waiting for a chance. If you believe in the love of Christ, turn the other cheek. Because right now, you're doing quite the opposite of what Jesus preached. Okay? Let's watch this TikTok from this guy who had a conversation with his dad. And I'm sure for some of us, it will be very relatable.
Huge fight with my dad, and because I don't have a good therapist yet, I'm just going to use you guys for therapy. So this whole Charlie Kirk thing, assassination, has taken its toll on my personal mental health, but clearly the mental health of like a shit ton of people in society. My dad is a huge Trump supporter, and he is sickened by the left always, and I'm a big lefty. So we have heated discussions all the time, but now is the only time in my entire adult life that I've actually had like a real bad, not friendly, not chummy fight with him. Oh, we've had fights before. They're always minor. It's always like, hey, I'm sorry for that. This time though, he's just doing, I guess, worse. The Charlie Kirk thing just really, he called me up and he wants to have a savage, deep, screaming match. He's saying things like, you're calling me evil and stupid. He sees my Facebook post and I'm like, look, this guy is probably to the right of Charlie Kirk because he's in deep internet meme culture, Groyper territory, where he is calling Charlie Kirk a leftist. He's soft, he's left, he's a socialist. Like in these really far right places, Charlie Kirk to them is not a centrist. He's a full-blown leftist because they don't understand what the left is. They don't understand those types of ideas. And so, and a lot of this stuff is like trolling, black pill. I'm trying to explain to my father, tell me what's on the casings. Tell me each one of them. And I said, okay, ciao, Bella, ciao, ciao, ciao. I was explaining, I was like, this comes from Italy. This is post-World War II. This is during World War II. It's about true fascism. It has nothing to do with Antifa. True anti-fascism, like original anti-fascism. So this has become a reference to a video game about blah, blah. And I started trying to explain, tell me what's on the casings. And I'm like, well, I am. And he says, you're only talking about one. Tell me the other three. Screaming, literally screaming. My dad's like 76, 77 years old. He doesn't usually do this. He's very dark, very dark. I decided to go there with him, and I got really dark. Okay, so I go over the other casings with him, and I'm like, you know, if you read this, you're gay. I'm like, that's like so old school OG meme culture. This is a meme culture shitposting thing that's happening. Really, I say that it's far right. Really, though, it's not even that it's right or left because it's kind of going in a different direction entirely, different from like representative politics entirely. It's like going down deep into nihilism and feelings of anger, hatred towards women, for instance. Deeply, like absolutely okay with everything burning, like Joker territory, which deep incel meme culture, gamer culture, like, but the shitty places, the shitty corners of gamer culture, because gamer culture is also a lot of positive things. But this is the dark, like Nick Fuentes. Even Nick Fuentes is disgusted by these guys, but they all hold Nick Fuentes up as some sort of God king, which he makes fun of. He makes fun of them, and he tells them that they should fucking off themselves. So, and this is funny between them because there's a lot of nihilism and hopelessness and anger and rage. I can't explain this to my father. He's screaming, and then he decides that he's going to bring up child abuse from the past. I guess he's drunk on rage. Remember that time I punched you? You know, boomers and their abuse, they're ubiquitous. Like, we've all dealt with boomer religious fundamentalist boomer abuse. It's kind of like a tale as old as time. I'm not excusing it, but I'm also like moved on, emotionally healed from a lot of it. But he says, remember that time that I punched you? And I was like, yeah, but are you going to apologize? And then he goes on about how he doesn't need to apologize. Okay, so now we're to a very deep, dark fucking place. And I said to him, I was like, do you want to really go here? Do you want to go into these discussions because I'm fucking pissed and I will go there with you. This is a place I shouldn't have done this. I should not have gone to this place. No way. I don't go to this place ever. So he starts talking about how I deserved to be punched after we riled up about the Charlie Kirk stuff. And I screamed at him, and I've never sworn at my father. I've never sworn at him, but I swore at him today. And we're yelling at each other. And then I block him. So it was very stupid and very immature and dumb. But it was bad. It was wrong of me to do this. I should have kind of seen what was going to come. It's a long post. Sorry. Just going through it. Just going through the therapy.
Very relatable. Very relatable. Yeah. I think that's the painful part. I think for those of us who have had these conversations time and time again with our family, like I'm sitting here talking about like deconstructing, you know, trying to make the world a better place. Like the last thing we want to do is abandon our family. But I think it's really important that people process that it's not abandoning people to keep moving forward because they can always follow you. I'm not abandoning my family by moving forward. I would be so elated, excited for them to follow me. But if they're not going to, I can't wait around. Right? That's always been my belief is like, I'm not going to wait around, but I'm not going to block you either. But I'm also going to like keep going forward. Now, the one thing about my family that might be different from your family is my family, we're West Asian. We're very prideful like the Saiyans. We will never contact you first. So this whole, we'll talk to each other again later. It could be 20 years, girl. But in the meantime, I love them and I wish the best for them. And I'm going to focus on my family here. But let me tell you, that phone might never be picked up again, you know? And the thing is like of course, the expectation is that I will pick up the phone. And I always do, by the way. I am the daughter who always ends up picking up the phone. But I think this is it, girls. I think this is it. And there is a grief to that is so real. I saw a TikTok from a girl. I don't know who she was, but she definitely looked like she was from Detroit, West Asian-y, where she was like, it is a privilege to have parents who agree with you politically. It is. If you have parents who agree with you politically, know your privilege. Know your privilege. Because I don't have that privilege. And it is devastating. And the grief is so real. And the grief is layered. And people will not get it. Because for those of you who can just cut off your family willy-nilly, you're not experiencing, maybe you're having a different relationship with the grief. You're valid. The grief is different here. The grief is real. And the irony is while we are grieving, they have no clue. They don't believe it. They're doubling down. While we are grieving and going to therapy, well, this guy is on the internet being like, fuck, I got to talk to my therapist. Our family is doubling down and choosing Charlie Kirk over us. While we sit here and cry in the arms of our loved ones that we do have. So feel your grief and keep moving forward. And like I said, should they ever catch up to me and hang out, I would love that. I would love to, I imagine there's a trail and I keep walking on the trail and I hear in the background footsteps approaching. Brittany, wait, I'm coming with you. And I'm like, oh, like a good anime. That's my dream. My dream is to be in a situation where they're like, fuck you, I'm not coming with you. And you end up hearing their footsteps behind you. Okay, big news. Black colleges being targeted. Stay alert, kids. News story. Here we go.
On alert and on pause, at least 6 historically black colleges have halted activities after receiving potential threats against their campuses. The lockdown measures come in the wake of yesterday's shooting of Charlie Kirk, though officials have not linked any of those threats to that shooting. Our Alex Brochet joins us now with more. So what are we learning about the threats and the lockdowns and where it's taking place, Alex?
Yeah, Kira. So we're tracking now at least 7 of these HBCUs that have been under lockdown in the past 24 hours following that assassination of Charlie Kirk. That includes Alabama State, Hampton, Virginia State, Southern, Bethune-Cookman, Clark Atlanta, and also Spelman there in Atlanta. Now, some of these universities have already begun the process of lifting these lockdowns or shelter in places. Others have, like Southern, have actually extended those through the weekend. They've canceled classes through the weekend, which at this moment, that is the longest extension of this lockdown. But I can tell you that the FBI has released a statement. I don't know if we have a full screen of it, but it does say that the FBI takes these threats very seriously because it puts innocent people at risk. While we have no information to indicate a credible threat, we will continue to work with our local, state, and federal law enforcement partners to gather, share, and act upon threat information as it comes to our attention. But I can tell you that we've been in touch with a number of students, including some on the campus of Hampton. Our team has, and you know, as you might imagine, Akira, I mean, this is really shaking a lot of these young students up. There's fear of uncertainty and also possible violence as this is yet another instance of their campuses being threatened.
And I see civil rights leader Reverend Al Sharpton responding to this as well. Alex saying political violence or acts of hate get us nowhere. We can march, we can debate, but we cannot cause physical harm to those we disagree with.
Okay, there have been 2 people who have been found hanging from trees, so we have to pay attention to that as well. Again, they're saying we don't know the motive for those, but I think we should stay alert and just be aware that it's probably not innocent. They're saying in one of the instances, there's a lot of rumors going around online right now. We have got to be careful about that for a lot of reasons. But I do think you should also be very cautious. And now for people who said, what do Black people have to do with Charlie Kirk? Reminded me of this TikTok.
So I was going to make a video about Charlie Kirk and just want to like fact check something. So I just Googled quickly Charlie Kirk's assassin. Swear to God, this is the first article that comes up when you search that. Charlie Kirk's alleged assassin's transgender roommate hates conservatives and hates Christians. I just love that Fox News was like, is the killer black? No. Is he a Democrat? No. Is he gay? No. Is he trans? No. But his roommate is.
It's like, okay, that one, and then look at this one. Hold on.
First of all, how dare you?
Not
So
this
I was
one.
gonna make a video.
Nope, not this one. Hold on.
I really appreciate dealing with
Wait, where's the one? Hold on, that's not the one I wanted to show you. I wanted to show you the one where they're like, they can't blame it on anyone. So they're like, you know, Black people. Damn it, I don't know which video it was. He had one where it's like when they can't blame anybody, but they still make it about Black people. That's what I meant to show you. My bad. Either way, he had a couple of funny ones, okay? And that's what it feels like. It feels like, what does this have to do with us? Like, or not us, Black people, but like, what does it have to do with our community? What does it have to do with trans people or gay people? It has nothing to do with our communities. You know what I mean? Why are you making it about our communities? It's because they can't contend with the reality. That like, white guys with guns are dangerous, bro. White men with guns are dangerous. They're dangerous. We shouldn't be like excited that everybody has guns, which is interesting because they hate when Black people show guns in rap videos, but they love it when 15-year-old boys get gifted a rifle for their birthday. I wonder what that's about. I wonder what that's about. Okay, hold on. I want to show you something else before we moved on to this other video that I had. Wait. Oh, this one here. Listen to this.
You have to fire this piece.
She needs to be fired.
You don't get that disgusting pig of a woman, Cynthia Rayburg, off of your staff. There is going to be hell to pay.
Those are just a few of the hundreds of voicemails the Elkhorn Area School District has received over the weekend. Hi, I'm Kaylee Starl, and I'm a reporter with TMJ4 News in Milwaukee. An associate principal here in the Elkhorn Area School District is facing the fallout from a viral post connecting her to comments about Charlie Kirk's death. It was created by a conservative influencer, Ryan Fournier, and it basically alleges that these comments about Charlie Kirk's death were made by Cindy Rayburg, an associate principal here in the district. The problem is, both Cindy and the district say that's not true.
My first thought when I saw that, I thought, who is Cynthia Irene? And I answered the phone and someone was swearing on the other line. yelling at me, and I knew right away something was wrong.
The district superintendent tells me they actually did an investigation and found that person who made the comments lives in Williams Bay and is not part of the district. But it was already too late. That post went viral. Over the weekend, the district has received more than 800 voicemails calling for them to fire Cindy.
So you're in Louisiana calling us and harassing about something you know nothing about.
And it wasn't just the district. Cindy tells me she also received some vulgar and threatening messages herself.
Oh my goodness, where are my kids? Where's my husband? You know, how does this look for everybody's safety?
Now, I did reach out to Ryan, that poster, on Saturday, but didn't hear back. But then he sent me a direct message on X late Sunday night, sharing a post that says those statements were false. Now, even though he's deleted that original post, the district says the damage is done. Roughly 100 kids called out of school Monday, and they had an increased police presence. Now, they're continuing to go through these messages, considering legal action, but their main message here: don't believe everything you read online.
I really hope that people are more critical thinkers and, you know, kind of think of digital literacy and maybe learn from something like this, where you can't believe everything that you see and read.
Listen to this.
You have to fire this.
Okay, now I want to show you. Okay, I want to show you this. Pull it up. Hold on. This video. Hold on. Let me just. I had to open a bunch of tabs again. Hold on. I want to show you this video. 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 Okay, check this video out. Reminder that I always say don't do anything out of fear or hatred. And this is why I say, like, don't be ugly just because people are ugly, but don't let them weaponize your pain either. So sometimes people will be confused when I say, like, I don't really think like violence is the answer most of the time, right? People will be like, what do you mean by that? I don't mean self-defense, right? I think we all agree, like, you should be able to defend yourself. I don't mean that I'm gonna blame people for eating animals, but also, like, do we need to be killing animals en masse to eat? Like, is that really a need for a lot of people, or is it just like a privilege? Okay, we'll talk about that. That's a whole different conversation about life and the meaning of life. We talk about abortion and the right to defend yourself against, you know, this growing entity within you, questioning whether or not it has a soul or not a soul. What does a soul even mean? Okay, lots of questions about, like, what is violence? You know, there's all these conversations that come up that I think, like, a lot of people aren't, and a lot of people who are famous aren't actually interested in helping people figure it out. But more than that, the communities aren't actually genuine and wanting to help the situation. They actually contribute more to it to be bad. And this is an example of it. The last man who spoke to Charlie Kirk, who was asking him the question at the interview, put out this TikTok that I think you should pay attention to, right? And I saw a lot of the videos he references in his video are videos I saw on TikTok. Conspiracy theories, claiming it was an inside job. Oh, this guy touched his hat. This guy touched his nose. It was a signal. It was a sign. Yeah, you're not helping. You're not helping. You're not helping making a list of people to go after. These conservatives making a list, Laura Loomer, all these people, they're not helping. It should be illegal. It should not be okay. Now, people ask me, Brittany, why, do you believe in free speech or not? Guys, you need to understand that America runs differently than every other country. I live in Croatia now. You cannot make Nazi jokes or Nazi signs here. You cannot just, like, draw a swastika in a building here. And for good reason. So when you say to me, well, what about free speech? Yeah, I like how you romanticize the dream of America being a place for free speech. But don't you think we should also question our engagement in what we do when we have that free speech? Shouldn't you hold yourself accountable? If you're giving this great power, if we're giving you this great power, okay, if I'm giving you this great power of free speech, why aren't you using it for good? And by the way, free speech is about challenging the government, right? Zim, welcome to memberships. Appreciate you. Okay, so I want you to process that information. If I give you this great amount of responsibility, can you please treat it with dignity? Instead of using it to, like, go around and harass minorities, right? Okay? So let's go ahead and watch this video together. This is the man who talked to Charlie Kirk before he died.
Question. How about they investigate the person who asked this question?
Oh, gosh, this little loading button pisses me off. Hold on.
How about they investigate the person who asked this question? All of this was planned. I mean, it's no coincidence for sure. Does anyone know who he was debating with at the time of the shooting? That's what I'm saying. I feel like it was a setup. It had to be set up. The person asking was in on it. Yeah, they were definitely in on it. That's too obvious. All I'm going to say is the guy that asked about mass shootings was part of it. That was code word to take the shot. And right after Charlie said something about it, it happened. I was almost convinced that the person asking the question did it. until I remembered that I was that person. Thank you, every single one of you, for your individual takes, because
I also don't know why his audio is so off, but there it is.
that's what we need during an ongoing investigation, is everyone's opinions about what had happened. I mean, so many people have been asking me, why did you say great to a yes or no question? Well, I was going to say, great, did you perform the statistical analysis without gang shootings? Because essentially I knew he was right, but that he also had the burden of proof. But actually, none of you guys even care about this. None of you guys care about the actual answer. You just want to have your pet little conspiracy theories. But why am I so pressed? Why am I so upset? I mean, they're online. Can't I just turn off my phone? Oh, I wish I could agree with you. There was a video with 500,000 likes on it on TikTok that said, "Get this guy." And then a reporter asked my governor why I have not been apprehended yet. And then the guy in front of me in line said, this guy was talking about transgender issues in line. And then he goes up to talk to Charlie, and all of a sudden it's about shootings. That seems awfully suspicious, doesn't it? Actually, Henry, the question was about transgender shootings. So because you couldn't listen, you felt like you had to tell millions of people that I look suspicious. Meanwhile, I was talking to the police like a rational and responsible person instead of going to the media. Because I was giving a statement to the police before most of you guys even knew that it had happened. And again, where has the actual harm been done? I mean, it still sounds just like comments, but it's a lot of comments now. I don't think you guys understand how easy it is to find people's addresses nowadays. I did not think that my phone number was that readily available. I genuinely did not. But I cannot tell you how many people have knocked on my door over the last 4 days. It has lightened up. No one's knocked on my door today, but the day after, oh my goodness. 30, 40 people knocked on my door. Most of them were journalists, for sure. Not all of them. You need to get arrested at FBI. Thank you for tagging them because you think that they're checking their Twitter mentions. Firstly, my first and last name has been on every...
Which, by the way, why I said you can't go to Nick Fuentes' house. I know a lot of people were supporting that person. Guys, my values are my values. Why would my values allow me to harass and go to Nick Fuentes' house? That's why I said you're crazy for going to that house. Why would you go to his house? He is literally a threat to so many people's safety. Why would you go to his house? And the people who felt like, oh, well, they had, but he's a bad person. Why would you go to a bad person's house? Why would you go and why would you put yourself in danger? What do you think you're doing? Except what? Going viral on the internet? Why would you go there? That's what I'm saying. You cannot go to people's homes. It is crazy person behavior that is so scary because it's not just Nick Fuentes' house people are going to go to. It's yours and mine. It's scary. Don't go to people's homes. Don't go to J.K. Rowling's house. Don't go to people's houses. Hold your politicians accountable, not your neighbors, unless there is something deeply unique and happening, like your neighbor's a serial killer and your kid is in the house, okay? But why are you going to people's houses? Same thing with, not even politics, Julian and Jenna Marbles. Parents taking their kids to their houses. Well, they want to meet you. You're their favorite YouTuber. Stop going to people's houses. Okay? Chet says, but if someone does go to your house, don't assault them. No. No. Come on now. See? No. Self-defense. No. It depends on the circumstance. But you can't go to people's houses, guys, and expect people in America not to feel a little concerned when everybody has guns. Don't go to people's houses. Are you saying that if a person comes to my house as a YouTuber, I would be wrong to defend myself? That feels crazy. Don't come to my house. Don't go to Nick Fuentes' house. Don't go to people's houses. Okay? That's kind of crazy. Obviously, now if people are just on your property, call the cops or something. If people are trying to break in, hello? Okay? If people are knocking on your door, what are we talking about? Okay? Obviously, circumstances matter. Okay? Don't just kill people because they're stealing something from your property. I don't think human lives are worth more than things on your property. But if people are coming to your house to find you, that's really scary. Okay? That's really scary. And please don't put me in that position. This is what we always say. Please don't put me in a position to defend myself. Please don't do this to me. And I will mourn your death should I win this battle, but please don't put me in this position. I don't want to hurt you. I don't want to hurt you. Do not put me in that position. And that's the difference. I'm not seeking blood, but some of these people out here, they're hungry, bro. They're hungry for violence. I'm not one of them, girl. I want to meditate and peace my way to heaven. I don't even believe it, by the way. I don't even believe in heaven. But you know what I mean? Okay?
Been on every news publication in the world saying I'm a UVU student. If the FBA wanted to find me, they could. Secondly, I reached out to the FBI because my wife was sitting 30 feet away recording me and had multiple, like 20 videos of B-roll that we all sent to the police, and I got interviewed by them. If I was a suspect, Kash Patel himself would come knocking on my door and not some deranged lunatic who's been spending too much time online. Also, to all the people who are saying that I must have been in on it because I don't look shocked enough, I am sorry that I don't meet the threshold of being the target of a national manhunt and also watching a person murdered in front of me while I was having a conversation with them. Sorry that my emotions are not perfectly encapsulating that event. And I know I'm not the only one targeted, because there was a guy with like a baseball cap who was like itching his ear right before it happened. God forbid a guy itches a ear. And then there was a guy online who kind of looked like the picture who debated Charlie Kirk like a year ago. And people were like, let's post his full legal name online. Even if that is the guy, all you're doing is alerting him. Conspiracy theorists targeted at least 6 or 7 people who they thought was in on it, and none of them were right. But that won't stop the new batch of just asking questions. Like, I am being harassed while I am currently cooperating with the FBI. And I am now of the opinion that anyone who harasses individuals during an ongoing investigation should be tried for obstruction of justice. And I'm not even a little bit joking. You guys just want to be the hero. You want to be the hero, but you're actually just getting in the way, okay? Because there are trained professionals who have gone to school for this, who are working for this, whose their job it is to find this guy. And you losers who are in the comment section with your own fun little speculations, you are actively getting in the way.
This happened in the UK when Tommy Robinson was in trouble because he kept obstructing justice by getting involved in a huge rape case. And he kept getting in trouble. And he, by the way, Tommy Robinson had a huge fucking protest on behalf of Charlie Kirk, and all the white supremacists came out. So you should be very concerned that people are trying to rewrite history, that these white men are somewhat heroes, or somehow heroes. They are not heroes. They are bigots. Okay. And they use any opportunity to come for you and your people. Again, we do not want violence. We do not want violence. Okay. Chet says, I thought the protest in the UK was against immigration. They had Charlie Kirk banners everywhere. Focus, lock in, everybody. Charlie Kirk's death is being used to perpetrate hate against brown people on behalf of white people. Charlie Robinson had pictures of Charlie Kirk. They spoke on behalf of his death. They literally said Charlie was a friend. They used Charlie Kirk. The president of the United States is using Charlie Kirk. They were rewriting his history to say, oh, we shouldn't trust brown people. Okay? We need to lock in. Lock in. Be safe. Do what you need to do and stop putting your head in the sand, bros. Again, don't hurt people. Walk away. And, be aware of what's happening. I know a lot of Americans don't even pay attention to politics, trust me, but it's not politics that has the answer. It's our own humanity. It's your ability. Remember that a lot of people learned this week that their family, now they understand why Trump won. A lot of you did not know your family was so fucking racist. A lot of you did not know your family was so fucking Trumpian. You did not know your family was so fucking stupid. So lock in and get used to it. Because yes, Trump won for a reason. And Trump is being able, JD Vance on Kirk's show yesterday is able to say things like violence mostly comes from the left when we know that it's factually not true. Literally factually not true. It is literally factually not true that most of the school shootings that happen in America, it is not the left. But look how casually and powerfully and without hesitation he was able to get up on that podium and say that. And how many people just ate that fucking shit up. Absolutely not. These white men cannot remake their history. They do not get to redo history and talk about how they're so amazing they freed the slaves. They shouldn't have been enslaved in the first place, you fucking losers. Peace and love.
I oppose the death penalty, which means I oppose murder, no matter who, no matter what was done. So to me, the murder of Kirk cannot be justified. There are two things that need to be said. First, a thirst for violence on the part of many who loved him and what he did is becoming apparent. And second, there's an illegitimate attempt to transform him into some kind of American hero instead of a loud and pathetic white supremacist. The assassination of Minnesota politicians by a right-wing extremist brought silence from those who are now talking about civil war. And the president, so upset about the violence, said nothing about the political motives of the right-wing killer in Minnesota. And he also said that calling the governor of Minnesota would just be a waste of time. And while they were ready to pounce on this suspect, the suspect ain't an immigrant, or black, or brown, or transgender. He's the white young man who's the son of a law enforcement officer. The next day brought a string of threats of violence that caused lockdowns at HBCUs, including Alabama State University, Hampton University, Virginia State University, Southern University, and Bethune-Cookman University, and others. And are you kidding me? An American hero? This is what Kirk is. He says DEI justifies questioning the competency of black pilots. Black people were better off under slavery and Jim Crow. The Civil Rights Act was a huge mistake. He endorsed the biblical justification for the execution of gay people. Black women need DEI because they have inadequate brain processing power. George Floyd was a scumbag, and MLK Jr. was just awful. And single women who don't get married early will be depressed, suicidal, angry, and they'll lash out by voting Democratic. Jewish people push the same hatred against whites they claim to want people to stop using against them. And most ironically, he says it's worth it to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year so we can have the Second Amendment. Kirk was a race baiter and a bigot who used his hatred to accumulate a net worth estimated by Parade magazine to be $12 million at the time of his death. He did not deserve to be murdered, but he certainly is no hero. He was a white supremacist who died a violent death.
Read this way: Charlie Kirk died. Imagine if the headline read this way: Charlie Kirk dies by a stray bullet. Imagine if it read that way. Or imagine if a news anchor said that maybe the bullet was shot in celebration. Imagine if there was assassination denial constantly, all the time. How enraging that would be to those that attach themselves to the said figure. Those who have the nerve to talk about political violence today, after 2 years of being deniers of the worst manifestation of political violence, which is genocide, should be called out and condemned for their hypocrisy. You really have not been paying attention. You really have not been paying attention.
Let me get you that previous TikTok, though I will say, I do believe there was misinformation. Chad is saying that his dad wasn't a sheriff. It was of the wrong last name, but his dad did turn him in, which must have been very difficult. That must have been so heartbreaking to have to turn your own son in, but I'm so proud of him because so many people won't. I can't tell you how many people I see saying I would never snitch on my own kid. If you wouldn't turn your son in for murdering somebody, you're a bad person. I'm sorry your son killed somebody. They should be turned in. We can't, as parents, defend our kids' bad behavior. This is why our parents protect predators in our family, because they gave birth to them. Stop doing that. Stop it. Okay? Stop that. Okay? Chess says his dad didn't turn him in either. It was a pastor close to the family. Wait, I know he confessed to the pastor, but I thought the dad and the pastor turned him in together. Oh my God, I'm exhausted at the amount of misinformation for this fucking case. Jesus fuck. God, this is so annoying, actually. Okay, a little bit of humor.
Fucked up it is. I just want to come up on here and say how fucked up it is that you guys are celebrating a man's death. I seen it happen. What's today? The 12th? I seen it happen yesterday. Everybody was running around celebrating the murder of a human being. Like he didn't have children. Like he wasn't a loving husband and father. I don't care if you disagree with somebody politically. They still deserve to live. And it doesn't matter if that person is or is not Osama bin Laden. I don't care. I don't care if it was the anniversary of a tragedy that happened in America. I think 9/11 was bad. I think a lot of the things that Osama bin Laden did was also bad. But for you to sit here and celebrate the murder of a human fucking being, it is animalistic and it's wrong, and you don't value human life.
Thank you, my brother in Christ. We needed a reprieve. Thank you. I appreciate you. We needed some peace. Okay, we needed some peace. Okay, now. I want to cover that. I'll cover this, and then we're going to cover 2 more videos, guys. 2 more videos. Kind of longish. Here we go. So, obviously, like I said, the right is making a list of people to, quote, go after who were disrespectful towards Charlie, ranging from saying he was a bad person to being happy he died. But keep in mind, they're basically policing how we feel about a stranger we don't know. Okay? Keep in mind, progressives are simply unfollowing celebrities. Other people are making a list, doxing people, giving away their information, and basically, well, advocating for violence. Okay? So let's talk about it, because JD Vance is blaming the left, and he went on Charlie Kirk's show yesterday to talk about it. Let's watch this together.
The killing of Charlie Kirk igniting right-wing calls for a crackdown on the left. And this afternoon, Vice President JD Vance, the presumptive future leader of the Republican Party, took the mic.
People on the left are much likelier to defend and celebrate political violence. This is not a both sides problem. If both sides have a problem, one side has a much bigger and malignant problem, and that is the truth we must be told.
That was the vice president guest hosting the late Charlie Kirk's podcast. What you just heard, that the
You should feel like you're being gaslit, because you are. We know statistically the right and conservatives cause most of the violence because it's literally a part of their platform. It's literally a part of their platform. Okay? He's lying to you, and you should feel a little crazy. Okay? You should feel a little crazy that he is saying this and people are believing it. This is why I say, with peace and love to your friends and family, if they believe this, you need to walk away. You don't have to stop talking to them, but you need to free yourself from trying to get through to these people, because like, it's so ridiculous. Okay? I talked to one of my brothers, and at first, because the story was coming out, I was like, look, dude, he's not even registered to vote, but he might be a groyper. He might be a conservative. He was wearing like Trump merch. And then he goes, well, he's a liberal. And I was like, no, dude, he's like a groyper most likely. And he goes, oh, you were so fucking wrong. He wasn't even wearing that Trump merch. It was AI. It was photoshopped. I said, okay, but I said he wasn't registered to vote. But you're the one who said he was a liberal and you wouldn't take it back. And I'm saying, just because he wasn't wearing that Trump merch doesn't change the fact that I was right, that he's not registered to vote. Like, as far as I know, he's not registered to vote. As far as I know, maybe that's changed because so much information is coming out about this. My point is that he's dangerous, and he grew up in this family with these belief systems and or found a pipeline online. But all my brother cared about was that, like, so you were wrong. And I was like, you were also wrong. You said he was a liberal. What does it matter? And he goes, yeah, what does it matter? He's just crazy. So what does it matter? And I was like, no, because they want to do this thing where they're like, he's just crazy. What does it matter? No, it matters how we got here. It matters how we got here. This is preventable. Most of the violence in the world is literally preventable. It's preventable. But you're not going to prevent it if you keep not being curious about why it happened and or letting JD Vance get away with accusing the left of being violent when that's literally not even our platform. It's like the people who want to blame vegans for being the most violent. Vegans? What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
The left has a problem that the right doesn't have. That was a recurring theme of what he said today. Vance also spoke, though, about his personal experiences with hostility from the left. He told all of us about a family visit he took to an amusement park.
There was a loud and very cool minority that would shout at my children, who were 8, 5, and 3 whenever they got the opportunity. You should disown your dad, you little shit, one middle-aged woman yelled at my 5-year-old. Tell the Secret Service to...
Yeah, that's crazy, bro. Yeah, that's crazy. People are stupid and crazy. Right? Do we agree? Now, how does that justify you walking up and standing up and saying what you're doing? How is that equivalent to somebody saying that Palestinians deserve to be genocide or gay people should be stoned? How is that equivalent?
Protect the Constitution, not your father, screamed another after Charlie died. One of his friends and one of our senior White House staffers had left-leaning operatives in his neighborhood passing out leaflets telling people what he looked like and where he lived, encouraging neighbors to harass him or, God forbid, to do worse while he was mourning.
No. Chet says, VP saying shit on TV, amazing. No, not TV. A Charlie Kirk live stream. Ben Shapiro, Matt Walsh, and that guy from the Republican Party is on Charlie Kirk's live stream right now. They're streaming on his YouTube channel. They're streaming on his YouTube channel. Because Charlie Kirk had a huge fucking following. They're capitalizing on their death of their so-called friend. Ben Shapiro wants to take over Turning Point USA. As we speak right now, they are streaming on Kirk's. They're taking advantage of Kirk's status to get through to the viewers. They're literally brainwashing them right now. Tell me that is not the craziest thing you've ever heard. Let me show you. Michael Knowles, Matt Walsh, and Ben Shapiro right now. 9/16/2025, 18,000 people watching. Stream started 11 minutes ago. They are literally going to stream on his fucking channel with almost 5 million subscribers. They're like, oop, friend died, but he has 5 million subbies. Stream time. Bro.
His dead friend, he and his wife had to worry about the political terrorists drawing a big target on the home he shares with his young children. Are these people violent? I hope not. But are they guilty of encouraging violence? You damn well better believe it. We can thank God that most Democrats don't share these attitudes, and I do, while acknowledging that something has gone very wrong with a lunatic fringe, a minority, but a growing and powerful minority on the far left.
Minority, lunatic fringe.
I agree with you. Charlie would have loved that, though. Charlie would have loved it. Oh, Charlie is sitting there in his fucking grave just being like, yes, boys. Shout out to my boys. He loves that shit.
Vice President there acknowledging that it's not most people on the left who are shouting at children or celebrating an assassination. Still, Vance went on to argue that extremism on the left is, quote, growing and powerful. And if you listen to what he says next, it really makes the path out of this wilderness seem all but impossible to find.
There is no unity with people who scream at children over their parents' politics. There is no unity with someone who lies about what Charlie Kirk said in order to excuse his murder. There is no unity with someone who harasses an innocent family the day after the father of that family lost a dear friend. There is no unity with the people who celebrate Charlie Kirk's assassination. And there is no unity with the people who fund these articles, who pay the salaries of these terrorist sympathizers, who argue that Charlie Kirk, a loving husband and father, deserved a shot to the neck because he spoke words with which they disagree.
So, of course, there can be no unity with a celebration of Charlie Kirk's assassination. Of course. It does beg the question, though, how can we get to a place where the voices that we're hearing, the voices that we are listening to, the ones that define our nation, are not the ones that are most extreme of all? Because as Vance himself said, this is a minority, a lunatic fringe, his words. How do we all get off our phones, back to our real lives, where we can see each other for what we are? We are human beings. We are all human beings. We absolutely have to.
Guys, I don't know why we're acting like before cell phones and the internet, people weren't saying the same shit. In Republican homes, people were saying the same shit. It's just now on the internet. Yes, the internet is fueling it, but it always existed. That's why the whole Make America Great Again doesn't make sense for minorities, because we've been all living in homes with bigoted people our whole lives. It's always been a part of Republican propaganda. This has always been a part of the propaganda. I grew up my whole life with Republican propaganda shoved down my throat. This has always been the talking points. Always, before the internet and before cell phones. Gay people are perverts and predators. Black people are the reason they're suffering. Immigrants are dangerous if they're not here legally, and most of them aren't, allegedly, right? This is what I learned growing up. Okay, the only way is through Jesus Christ. Muslims are terrorists. They don't care about you. What has changed in 30 years? In 36 years, my life has been the same. And I'm saying it has to start with us. That's why my work is philosophy through pop culture. Politics has always been dirty, will always be dirty, but you don't have to be. Okay? You can be better than just politics. Politics is for the greedy. It is. And we have to, in some ways, engage in that game, but you don't have to. The world can be reflected bigger. But it really starts breaking down and deconstructing our own lives. How did we get where we're going, and how do we make it better? Listen, the birth decline is a sign of good parenting. Sometimes the best way to be a good parent is not having kids, but they will convince you otherwise, right? Okay? So we need each other to come to a realization that like we need to do better every day and we need to be a little less bad every day. The dilemma is like these people will never get there. So you can't hold your breath waiting. You got to just do it. Okay? So yes, for all the people who got online and added to this idea that like they celebrated Charlie Kirk's death wasn't helpful. But if I got online and hear me and all I said was that he died a bad person and I still got harassed and stalked, did it matter what they said? See, in a world where JD Vance and Trump and all these people exist, I can't even say he was a bad person. So does it really matter if people were celebrating his death? Because to them, they see no difference. And if there is no difference, then you have no reason not to celebrate his death. Because it wouldn't even matter if you didn't, they would still come after you. I didn't even celebrate his death and I was still attacked and targeted. So what would it matter then? It has to matter. If you want people to act accordingly, like good and with good intentions, then they can't be treated the same as people who don't. So then the dilemma is like, where's the line in the sand, right? Now, for your sake, for your philosophical sake, for your relationship with self, I would love it if you could get to the point of healing where you didn't celebrate the death of a person. But yes, you're allowed to feel relieved. And yes, you're allowed to feel better. And yes, it's okay if you feel indifferent or apathetic. Okay? Ted says, do you believe he's dead? I will ban you, bro. What the fuck are you even saying? Charlie Kirk? Yes, I believe he's dead. I don't know about you, but we all kind of watched him die. Don't be weird, bro.
Figure out how to tolerate people that we disagree with, people who see the world differently than we do. How do we see the people that we can have unity with? Those masses out there that J.D. Vance acknowledged are there, the majority of people that disagree with his politics, but don't think any of this celebration he was talking about is right on any day, ever. Instead, we're letting the worst among us define us all. How do we stop doing that? Our panel is here. The New York Times journalist, someone who has had J.D. Vance on her own podcast, Lulu Garcia-Navarro, national political reporter for the New York Times, Ested Herndon, CNN senior political commentator, a veteran of Trump politics back to the 2016 campaign, David Urban, is with us, and the former communications director for the DNC. He's worked on numerous presidential campaigns, Mo Alifi. Thank you all for being here. Really appreciate it. David Urban, I would like to start with you, because we are, there are many Republicans who are saying the problem, yes, there's extremism on both sides, the problem's on the left. This is a very emotional time. What happened to Charlie Kirk, devastating and horrible. That doesn't mean that we don't have an imperative to figure out how to stop it wherever it is found.
Yeah, listen, I think that what you heard there is a lot of anger from a friend of Charlie Kirk's, right?
Chad says, Britt, will you vouch for me to move to Europe? Let me just say this, guys, and I think there's something to be said about this. Yes, you can leave America, but wherever you go, it's not like you won't still have an uphill battle. Everywhere suffering in America is causing a lot of that suffering. So you can stay and save America, or you can move and try to have a life somewhere else. You can start doing that. You can start immigrating like every other immigrant has to do, right? But like America will impact your life. Yes, you'll be safer in other places, possibly have a life in another place, but like you'll still move to a place that has struggles, right? But like you can do what immigrants do, guys. You can move. And I know it's hard. Immigrants do it all of the time. I'm doing it right now. I know it's hard, right? But like, do you know what I'm saying? I feel like sometimes Americans, and I don't mean to say it this way, but like are so privileged that they're like, it's too hard to immigrate. What do you think? Why do you think people risk their lives to come to America? Do you think it was easy for immigrants to move their whole life and move? Did you think it was easy for, like, of course it's hard, guys. Like, yeah, it's hard. I don't, like, you know what I mean? I need you to understand it's very hard to get up from the thing you know and move to a different place with a different language and a different culture and different food. Yeah, it's all very hard. So, like, you know, sitting there in America, you can. You can. Do you know that? Do you know you can? You know what I mean? So again, you have to decide which struggle is your struggle. Am I going to stay in America and make it better? Am I going to move? Just move to a different part of America, guys. Start there. Just move to a different part of America, a more liberal part of America, a less conservative part of America, and see how that goes for you. And if you still don't like it, you can try moving out of the country. But if moving over a state away is too hard, imagine trying to move overseas. You know what I mean? And I say this as somebody who's moved like a billion times. I've moved all over America. I've moved to now Europe. I've moved to all kinds of places. It's hard no matter what, but it's possible. And I'm saying this as somebody who's like never made six figures in her life except for 1 year of my life. So it's not even that you have to make six figures. You just got to figure out what you're doing. Okay. It's not that you have to be rich. It's that you have to know what you're doing. Okay. Just as immigrating or moving states a privilege, everything's a privilege. Existing is a privilege. Being alive is a privilege. Yes, everybody has privilege. What are you going to do with the amount of privilege you have, and how do you get more of it without it coming at the expense of others? How do you get more privilege without it being at the expense of others? That's how I like to think, because we should all be privileged enough to feel safe in our homes. We should all be privileged enough to be fed and clothed and housed. We should all be privileged enough to be educated, which is why I want to build or encourage systems that do that, because we should all be so privileged. It shouldn't be a privilege to feel safe, and yet it is. Okay? And yet it is.
A person who had an incredibly close relationship with years, over the past years, you know, JD Vance acknowledges that.
Chad said the liberal parts are pricey. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. A big part of it because of tech giants, remember that, in businesses and capitalism. But the conservative parts, like, that's when you have to make the decision, girls. That's when you have to make the decision. Is it worth, it wasn't worth it for me. I'll tell you this, staying in a conservative place was a risk to my mental health. So I was either going to kill myself or I was going to move. Can you guess which one I did? I moved. Sorry about that, guys. Thanks for letting me know. I'm sorry. I wish there was something I could do.
Charlie Kirk came to him when he was just a candidate and running and helped him navigate and negotiate his way forward to be a senator. And wouldn't be where he is today without Charlie Kirk. And so I think there's a lot of anger, a lot of pain still in the Republican Party. But I think we got to get past the notion that somehow that pain is a debt that has to be repaid in the same currency, right? That's kind of a notion that we have to get pain to pay back the pain. That's just not tenable. I think what the vice president said is exactly correct, right? People have to be given no quarter that want to celebrate these kind of things or that want to bring these things kind of upon people. I think back to when.
Reset the stream, guys. Reset YouTube. Maybe shut it down and come back. On my end, YouTube says I have an excellent stream, and OBS says I have an excellent stream. Refresh the stream. Refresh YouTube. Refresh it.
And the press secretary in the first Trump administration, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, went to a restaurant in the DC suburbs and was kind of shouted out and screamed out and chased out. And then we had some leaders in Capitol Hill say, give no quarter to these Trump people. Don't let them go anywhere. We'll chase them out, shout them out. We can't have that anymore. We can't have that allowed in the body politic anymore. That's not allowed, whether it's Democrats, Republicans. We have to turn the temperature down, and it has to start with all of us, with everybody that we know, right? I mean, I get along, we sit with Lulu in the green room, we sit in the green room, we chat. We don't get along politically, but we get along personally, and that's something that's very important.
Mo, you've been nodding, and then Lulu will weigh in.
No, I think everything David said is absolutely right. We have to, and in this era of social media and algorithms, we've stopped putting human faces on our opponents, and we just become avatars and caricatures. It's harder to humanize people on the other side.
Well, it's harder to humanize people on the other side when they're looking at you and saying, no matter what you do, I'll always think you're sinning. No matter what you do, just for being you, I think you're gross. No matter what you do, just being you, I think you should stop existing. Like, guys, we can humanize people just fine. We do it all the time. That's why they don't get why we humanize Muslims. Republicans don't get why we humanize Palestinians because they couldn't imagine humanizing someone they disagree with. I can humanize people I disagree with. I do it every fucking day. The difference is, like, you can't do that. So we are struggling. You say you're doing it, but when the opportunity came, you didn't turn the other cheek. When the opportunity came, you made a list. You made a list.
You humanize someone, it's harder to demonize them. That's one of the...
I disagree. I don't think it's harder to demonize people when you humanize them. You have to humanize yourself first. I worked years with people in my community, and I'm a queer person, and they still voted for Trump. I worked for years with my family as a rape victim, and they still voted for Trump. And by the way, asked me what I was doing at that party.
Fundamental challenges here. It's also important to recognize that this is not a problem on the left. It is not a problem on the right. It is a problem. Full stop. It is a problem.
This is bullshit, liberal shit. This is liberal bullshit. There's not a problem on the right or the left. It's just a problem. Yeah, if you zoom out into outer space, it's just a human problem. But hear me out. Which community has it baked into their belief systems that we should hate people for how they're born? Notice that leftists hate fascists. So it's not how you're born, it's how you act. And you shouldn't hate anybody, but hear me out. And Republicans hate you for existing, being born gay. Do we see the difference? Can we logically understand the difference? Anybody? Why are we acting like this is the same thing? This is not even near the same thing.
Here in this country where there is radicalization.
The White House tweeted out pictures of people being deported with funny meme music. What are we talking about? You memed kidnapping people off the street and deporting them and sending them to, basically concentration camps. What are you talking about? It's not a problem on the right. What are we talking about?
That is infecting our politics. And it is not fueled.
As if politics wasn't rooted in fucking racism and subjugation of communities. This is what I'm saying. This is why progressives don't like liberals. Because liberals want to shake hands with fascists. And I'm saying, I'm not going to shake hands with you, but I'm going to advocate for you to be clothed and fed. I'm not going to shake your hands, bro, but I would feed you if you were hungry.
By ideology, as much as it is fueled by a whole host of other dynamics.
Uh-oh. Hello, YouTube? Uh-oh, YouTube's pissed.
We cannot absolve it. We cannot absolve when it's perpetrated by one group as opposed to another. And that's what we need our leaders to step up and do, is go after it across the board.
Yeah.
And that's what we need to do collectively.
It's interesting to me, you said that this isn't a left problem, it's not a right problem, it's a problem. Lulu, your paper had an op-ed from Nathan Taylor Pemberton yesterday, where clearly the way that we often have conversations here, right? They're left, it's right. One side wants this, the other side wants that. Obviously, the way J.D. Vance, other politicians have been speaking about this, it has been left wing versus right wing. This is what Mr. Pemberton wrote. He says this, quote, "The internet's political communities and the open source sleuths currently scrambling to place Mr. Robinson into a coherent ideological camp certainly won't be content with any of this, nor will they be satisfied with the other likelihood awaiting us, that Mr. Robinson, the son of a seemingly content Mormon family, this of course the man who killed Charlie Kirk allegedly, probably possesses a mishmash of ideological stances, some held dearly, others not so much. We have fully stepped into a different historical moment, the age of brain poisoning meme politics."
True.
He's basically arguing this guy doesn't really fit into this paradigm that we typically use. It is the darkest pieces of the internet. How do we grapple with that?
You know what I did this weekend? Nothing. I went gardening, I went walking. And you know what I didn't do this weekend? I did not go on social media because I have found the incentive structure there to be bringing out our absolute worst selves.
Amen.
Because what it does is say, you who jump first, you who have the hottest take, whether it is wrong or right, you who try and bring out our anger and are the incentive to just be out there saying the most inflammatory thing, whether you know it's true or not, you who point fingers at the other side, you're going to be rewarded with followers, with money, with people who are going to celebrate you. And this is part of, not the full story here, but part of the problem. And so when that is where people get their fame, where people get their reward system in politics, in culture, then you know that this is going to be something that is actually going to feed into what we're experiencing right now.
Exactly.
Welcome back to the Philip DeFranco Show.
Phil, can you just hold on a second, bro? Thank you. So, okay. Yes. I think it's important to recognize, again, we do philosophy through pop culture. I want you to zoom out and decide what your values are. What are you going to do even when tempted to do something bad? And are you going to pick good today? This is what I want for my audience. I want you to be free from the chains of politics. And I want you to recognize, because I know a lot of you people, especially people who watch me, are like, Brittany, everything is politics. Guys, you are more than the systems that subjugate you. You are more than these political parties. And yet, I want you to recognize that in the rhetoric that is being pushed, there is something to be said about the corruption elements in these political bubbles. But you yourself, turn it off and just focus. What are you doing with your life? What do the next 10 years look like? What do the next 30 years look like? We are in the bad times, yes, but eventually we'll be in a little bit of a better time. What are you going to do now that in 10, 20 years, people around you will be better? You'll be better. What is the hard thing you're going to have to do right now? Because, girl, it's going to be hard. What is the hard thing you're going to do? I've been meditating on this for the last 72 hours. What is the hard thing I'm going to have to do that I'm already implementing now? It's okay to grieve. It's okay to feel horrible. It's also okay to move forward. You deserve to move forward in your life, and you're not going to move forward if you keep waiting for these fucking racists and bigots to get on your boat with you. They're either going to figure it out or they're not going to figure it out. If Charlie Kirk's death brought out the ugliest parts of your family and friends, it's okay to let them be. It's okay to mourn the fact that you won't have contact with them, but you don't need to stay. Like, I understand this as an older daughter who has so many girlfriends, so many friends, so many people in my life I've known for over the years who've done everything they can to try to heal their family wounds, who have said, like, I'm going to try. It's okay right now to make a decision to do something else, but that doesn't mean you've lost hope. It means you're not going to wait around because they are keeping you chained down. Okay? And I know, as a person who's always done what she wanted to do, in so many ways, I've also come to the position in my life where this is going to sound crazy, but even in the back of my head, making plans on whether or not I was going to go back to visit my parents in America has been weighing on me so heavily. And this whole situation has just made me relieved that I don't have to think about it anymore. Now, I'm not even thinking about it. And it's just freed so much time in my brain to think about anything else. Now I don't have to worry about saving that $5,000 to go. Now I don't have to worry about it because I'm not going to do it. And it's kind of nice. That doesn't mean that they can't come see me, right? If they want to get on a plane and come to Croatia, I will absolutely welcome them with open arms. But I was always the friend. You ever been the friend who's always the one going to your friend's house? You ever been the friend that's always driving everybody around? You ever be the friend that's always like, oh, I got you, I'll pay for the check? Yeah. I am happy I did that every time I did it. Starting today, I'm not going to do it anymore, but I want you to know I never resented you for doing it. I was always happy to do it. It was always the right decision that I did it. But starting today, I'm not going to do it anymore. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to drive, to be there, to pay that bill, and to show you love. Starting today, I'm no longer going to do that. I'm not abandoning you. I'm not avoiding you. I'm just not doing it anymore. But thank you so much for giving me that time when I was supposed to fill that role. But my role is changing. You are allowed to wake up today and choose a different role. Okay? But it was never wrong that you did it in the first place. Because I don't want you to say, oh, see, because people will tell you, see, I told you, you should have ditched them forever ago. No, fuck you. You're also wrong. You're also wrong. You're not ditching anybody. You're just doing something different today. You're not ditching them. Just not doing it anymore. Okay? You're just not going to do it. But if they want to come drive to see you, if they want to fly to see you, if they want to pay your bill, cool. But you're just not doing it anymore. Okay? And you're allowed to do that. You're allowed to be that person. You don't have to regret it. You don't have to feel bad. Right? Yeah, never feel bad for kindness. Exactly, chat. Never feel bad for being kind. It's never a bad decision to be kind. Ever. Okay? Ryan, thank you so much for the super chat. Says, instead of turning the other cheek, they're making lists. Values versus principle. Or values, principles. Exactly. Thank you so much for the super chat. I appreciate it so much. I appreciate that. Okay, let's watch this Philip DeFranco video because I want to see how he's covering the story, and then we're gonna wrap up. So if you have comments or questions, you can ask. Okay, here we go.
We have so much to talk about today, starting with this. We need to talk about what we now know about Charlie Kirk's assassination, his suspected...
This is 19 hours old.
killer 22-year-old Tyler Robinson, the fallout, and what happens next. Especially because going into and then over the weekend, you had news outlets having to issue retractions and corrections. But as you likely saw, things kicked off on Friday morning when you had Trump going on Fox News and announcing that a suspect had been taken into custody. But then, not long after, Utah Governor Spencer Cox confirming the news at a press conference and revealing Robinson's identity. And they apparently got him because he confessed or implied that he had committed the crime to a family member. But then that family member contacting a family friend who told the sheriff's office and encouraged Robinson to turn himself in. And on Thursday night, he surrendered to the police in the city of St. George, right where he lived.
Okay, there you go. The family friend turned him in, which I assume was the priest or pastor or something.
150 miles southwest of the campus where he allegedly killed Kirk. The men booked on suspicion of aggravated murder, felony discharge of a firearm causing serious bodily harm, and obstruction of justice, with a judge ordering that he be held without bail, and he's expected to be formally charged by local prosecutors tomorrow. And that's as authorities have come out with a bunch of new evidence appearing to tie him to the murder. Right, one, according to the FBI, Robinson wrote a note before the shooting saying that he had an opportunity to take Kirk out and was going to make use of it. Two, his DNA was reportedly found on a towel wrapped around the rifle, believed to have been used in the shooting, as well as on a screwdriver found on the rooftop where the shot was fired. And three, you now have the Washington Post reporting that a Discord account belonging to Robinson reportedly sent a message in a group afterwards saying, "Hey guys, I have bad news for you all. It was me at UVU yesterday. I'm sorry for all of this." As of now, it's believed that he acted alone, with Cox saying that officials didn't have any information that would lead to any additional arrests. Also, as far as anything that could give more insight, you had Cox saying back on Friday that Robinson's family members had told investigators that he'd become more political in recent years, and you had one claiming that at a recent dinner, he and a second relative discussed Kirk's upcoming event at Utah Valley University, saying they talked about why they didn't like him and the viewpoints that he had. You also had Governor Cox revealing the exact wording of messages inscribed on unfired cartridges in the woods near campus and alongside the rifle used in the attack. Or because, as you may remember, before this guy was arrested and we learned his identity, you had the Wall Street Journal reporting that the ammunition found inside the shooter's rifle was engraved with expressions of transgender and anti-fascist ideology. But you then had a senior law enforcement official with direct knowledge of the investigation telling the New York Times that this information hadn't been verified by ATF analysts, didn't match other summaries of the evidence, and might turn out to have been misread or misinterpreted. And so what we now know is that there were at least 4 shell casings found with some sort of message on them. One had lyrics to Bella Ciao, which is an Italian song adopted by the anti-fascist resistance during World War II. Another said, "Hey fascist catch," with an up arrow symbol, right arrow symbol, and 3 down arrow symbols. And while you had some noting that the 3 down arrows alone are a common symbol used for anti-fascism, the whole sequence together seemingly refers to a sequence of moves on a controller that releases a bomb in the video game Helldivers 2. The third then reportedly says, "If you read this, you are gay, LMAO." And the fourth was inscribed with the meme, "Notices bulge, ooh, what's this?" Right, and so then what you saw online was people kind of falling into one of 3 camps. Some arguing that this shows that the shooter was on the left. Others saying this was more of a deep internet meme culture accelerationist kind of thing. But then finally, with the internet culture and the gaming references, you had some saying that it suggested he was actually a groiper. And those are followers of Nick Fuentes, who is a personality who actually just the day before Charlie Kirk was killed, there was a whole write-up about him in the New York Times that read, "Nick Fuentes, a white nationalist problem for the right." And so for those in the camp that were pointing this way, they said, hey, Bella Ciao, for example, that they claimed is something that the group adopted kind of as a meme. It would show up in playlists meant for the group. But notably with that, you had Fuentes telling Axios he's never heard of that song before. But then also you had people arguing that these groipers, they long criticized Charlie Kirk. Because while you had many on the left saying that Kirk openly espoused racist, homophobic, transphobic, and misogynistic views, for the groipers, for the most part, he was seen as too moderate. But with all of that, you had Fuentes publicly condemning Kirk's killing, and he posted on X that "My followers and I are currently being framed by the mainstream media based on literally zero evidence." And then with that writing, after the left gunned him down, they celebrated and justified it. They said I was next. Now they are blaming me. These people are pure evil. And with all that said, as far as where this shooter reportedly landed, he reportedly wasn't affiliated with either political party. He never voted in an election. His parents are both registered Republicans who voted in the 2024 election. But in a Daily Mail interview on Friday, his grandma said that the family supports the MAGA movement, saying, "Most of my family members are Republican. Don't know any single one who's a Democrat." With then also being these photos from his childhood showing his family taking him and his brothers on trips to shoot guns and check out weapons displays. Then this weekend, you had Utah Governor Spencer Cox speaking to several media outlets and pushing back against the idea that he was on the right. Saying, yes, Robinson comes from a conservative family, but adding his ideology was very different than his family. And he told the Wall Street Journal specifically, "It's very clear to us and to investigators that this was a person who was deeply indoctrinated with leftist ideology." And then when asked to elaborate, he said that information comes from the people around him, from his family members and his friends. That's how we got that information. But then another thing that people are taking as evidence of Robinson being on the left is that you had Cox confirming, reporting for Fox News, that he'd been living with and in a relationship with a person transitioning from male to female. With Governor Cox noting that the shooter's romantic partner had been very cooperative with authorities and was shocked by what had happened. Well, he stopped short of saying that Robinson's partner's alleged status was a factor of Kirk's killing, and the investigators were continuing to explore a possible motive in the attack. That did not stop the internet from reacting.
Question, if I made the news, would they call me a trans something? All you have to do is figure out how they would paint you to kind of understand. Do you know what I mean? Chaz said probably. Yeah, they would, right? Yeah, they'd call me an OF model. They'd be like, oh, she's like makes sex work, you know? Oh, she talks about gender being a construct. She says she's a man. She says she's a man, you know? Yeah, Chaz says, does this partner even exist? I don't even know. I don't even know. You know what I mean? I don't even know like if this person is trans or not trans or what they are. But fun fact, for those who don't know, the trans to white nationalist pipeline is actually very big. And trans people have been talking about it forever. There's so many video essays that talk about it. This is why I say Republicans, guys, Republicans are gay. They're trans. They're queer. Well, they're not queer. They're gay. Like, I know people don't get it because people are like, well, you wouldn't be a conservative and be trans. Okay, Blair White just doesn't exist, I guess. Like, you know what I mean? But no, deeper in the bubbles on the internet, yeah, there are a lot of trans people that are really far right. But like far right that they might think Trump is too soft. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah, there are Nazi furries too. Oh, you know how many conservative furries I know voted for Trump furries? I can't even tell you. That's what I'm saying. Like, people don't understand. Yeah. Chad said I just saw the map of the most searched posts for trans porn. And it's mostly red states. Yeah, guys. Conservatives love that shit. Like, I'm serious when I say this. They hate us because they are us. They hate us for embracing what they think is shameful and we shouldn't be ashamed of. But we embrace it and we wear it proudly because we're like, there's nothing wrong with us. And they're like, no, can't you see? There's something so wrong with us. We're so gross for wanting to be this. We're so gross for liking this. Nah, dude, you're good. You don't have to hate yourself. They hate themselves. So they hate us for not hating ourselves for being gay or trans. Yeah, you know. Chad says, how many furries have we all actually met in person? Guys, furries are great people. There's nothing wrong with being a furry. They're just like BDSMers. They're just like into their, like, they're like cosplayers. Again, painting furries to be out to be sexual deviants, that's not what they are. They're just people who like to dress up. You guys are like, the world needs to calm down. Y'all can dress up and worship a man who you said rose from the dead and eat his body, but I can't wear a furry suit? Do you know what I'm saying? Why? Do you know what I'm saying? The same people that dress up every day with their little church costumes and their cute little robes. Do you know what I mean? Girl.
So you had the likes of Elon Musk reposting far-right commentator Matt Walsh saying transgenderism is a death cult, the largest, most well-funded and deranged death cult that this country has ever seen. Though that is, you have people noting that the Gun Violence Archive has estimated that only about 0.1% of mass shootings over the past decade were carried out by transgender.
And once again, Elon Musk saying Vivian has died because of the woke mob or because of the trans cult. Vivian's alive. She's voguing. She literally just did a modeling thing. She just literally walked. She's doing like modeling stuff. Like, she's not dead, Elon. That's the difference, is like Vivian's probably had to mourn her relationship with her dad, probably had to go to therapy for it, while he is literally hanging out with people being like, my daughter's dead, my daughter's dead. This is what I'm saying. For a lot of us, we have to grieve our parents and they're not even dead. And them, they're not grieving us. They're sad for us because we've been indoctrinated by the liberal media. They're not even grieving us because they always had the power in their hands to have a relationship with us. That's what's sad. Elon has all the power. He can just hang out with Vivian, bro. You know? But no, he'd rather live in a world where she's dead. That's sad.
Individuals. And that's as it's been estimated, transgender people make up about 1% of the U.S. population aged 13 and over, suggesting that, if anything, they commit mass shootings at a lower rate than other Americans. But despite what the numbers may say, despite the fact that officials have not confirmed a motive yet, and despite that we're talking about a situation where one person is being used to kind of paint an entire group, you have many arguing that this is going to be used to justify action against transgender people, and maybe even just people on the left in general. Because you're seeing right-wing politicians, right-wing mainstream media, and right-wing social media pointing to Kirk's killing and blaming virtually the entire left and the Democratic Party for his death. And you have many vowing to go after the left, saying that this is war. Also, as far as big, notable reactions and statements, you had Charlie's wife, Erica, speaking in a live stream while staying behind the empty chair that Kirk used during podcast tapings.
The evildoers responsible for my husband's assassination have no idea what they have done. If you thought that my husband's mission was powerful before, you have no idea. You have no idea what you just have unleashed across this entire country. In this world, you have no idea. You have no idea the fire that you have ignited within this wife. The cries of this widow will echo around the world like a battle cry.
And actually with that, you had JD Vance hosting the Charlie Kirk show today, also calling out Soros and then addressing the issue of political violence. And on one hand, he kind of pushed back against painting the entire left with one brush, but he also ultimately doubled down on the claim that it's a one-sided issue.
Now, I have heard many calls in the last few days for unity and for healing in the wake of Charlie's assassination. You have no idea how desperately I want that, how gratified I was when Democratic friends and even former Senate colleagues reached out to offer their condolences to me. I'm so thankful. And I know there are so many like them all across our great country. But unity, real unity, can be found only after climbing the mountain of truth. And there are difficult truths we must confront in our country. One truth is that 24% of self-described, quote, very liberals believe it is acceptable to be happy about the death of a political opponent, while only 3% of self-described very conservatives agree. 3% is too many, of course. Another truth is that 26% of young liberals believe political violence is sometimes justified, and only 7% of young conservatives say the same. Again, too high a number. In a country of 330 million people, you can, of course, find one person of a given political persuasion justifying this or that or almost anything. But the data is clear. People on the left are much likelier to defend and celebrate political violence. This is not a both sides problem. If both sides have a problem, one side has a much bigger and malignant problem.
Right, and as far as those numbers, Vance appears to be referring to a YouGov poll that was conducted after Kirk's shooting. Now, with that, you also have YouGov noting that the way that Democrats and Republicans respond to questions about political violence, it changes when there's an act targeting their own party. So with that, one, Democrats were also more likely to say that violence could sometimes be justified in a poll back in June, although by a smaller margin. Though two, aside from the polling, when it comes to actual...
Well, because we're thinking about, like, guys, if you're allowed to, if a man is raping you, am I allowed to defend myself? Okay, that's violence, yes? Okay. If you kill a cow to eat a burger, is that not a form of violence? Yes. Okay. If you cheered that when Saddam Hussein was killed, is that not cheering for someone who's died? Okay, yes. Charlie Kirk said that Biden should be killed and arrested. I saw on the back of trucks in conservative towns that Hillary Clinton should be locked up, lock her up. That she be, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, we all need to bring down the temperature, but you are equating people who are literally looking at Charlie Kirk for everything that he said and realizing, like, if it was up to him, he would kill us. Remember, we wouldn't kill Charlie Kirk, but he would kill us by his own rhetoric. 1 billion Muslims are evil. He said 1 billion, all Muslims are evil and working for Satan. 1 billion people, bro, all of them. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, this cannot be like the way, yeah. What about January 6th? What about January 6th? So when January 6th people do it, it's cool because it's American. But when the rest of us do it, it's not? What a ridiculous idea. January 6th happened in front of everybody. Everybody saw it happen. And then Trump came and pardoned everybody. Trump pardoned everybody. Make it make sense.
Violence taking place, we are seeing that this is a both sides problem. We've covered numerous instances on the left and the right. But then with all that, as far as action that we've seen from the Trump administration so far,
And by the way, guys, philosophically speaking, let me talk to my audience right now, okay? Not the Charlie Kirk people who might be watching or whatever. Listen, okay? We all exist in this little bubble here, but there's a whole other world that we're not even aware of because we're also fucking focused on this stupid little bubble. Okay, I get it, because this feels like the whole world. But I need you to know there's a whole other planet to exist on, a whole other way to engage with the world. But let me tell you this. Most people live here, 99.9% of people, because you have to, because it's where your physical body is. Our physical bodies are here. But if your beliefs exist here, then you'll never celebrate the day a person dies. You'll never celebrate the misuse of animal life and the way we so take it for granted. You'll never celebrate the fact that people litter or celebrate the fact that people hate each other. You'll never feel anger in your body the way that this bubble right here tells you you should feel anger. But because we all physically live in this little bubble, even when you feel like you're spiritually in a different place, the reality is that it comes and knocks on your door, literally. They're making a list. And it's hard when you're standing in front of somebody who's threatening your life to feel very fucking ascended, let me tell you. But the good news is, like, you don't have to be. You just got to do the right thing, no matter the temptation to do bad. So we are physically always at the mercy of our physical location. But I ask you to go home and meditate and to consider what life would feel like and be like, how your life could change if you just remembered that we're on a floating rock in space and there are so many good people on it. Billions of amazing people on this little floating rock in space. and they're waiting for you. They're your neighbors and they just haven't spoken up. They're in a different place and they're waiting for you to move there. Okay? They're on a dating website and you're about to swipe on them, girl. It's coming. I just need you to remember, like, billions of good people exist, and I know they exist because you exist. Billions of good people just like you exist. I need you to forgive, for your sake, evil in the world. Because if you don't, you'll become evil. I promise you, if you let this anger eat you up, you will not seek justice. You'll become a school shooter. You want to be angry for the world. You don't want to be angry at the world. You want to be angry at the injustice, not angry at people. Even though people are the ones who make it a reality. But if you choose to be angry at people, you will never actually do right by them. I know it's hard because I've been angry too, but I'm asking you just to think about that. Meditate on it. How do I be angry for the world and not at the world? Because if you're angry at the world, you'll become a school shooter. If you're angry for the world, you'll become an activist. Okay? And your activism should encompass love. Your activism should encompass peace. Charlie Kirk was an activist, but it wasn't for peace. It wasn't. You can't say any part of his rhetoric was in any way advocating for peace. Nothing he advocated was for goodness. And I'm so sorry if you believe it was, because I think you're trapped too. You're trapped in this idea that advocating for homophobia or transphobia could ever be good, or advocating for 1 billion Muslims being automatically bad people because they're Muslim is good. This isn't good. There's nothing good here. Okay? So just like take a deep breath and process that information. I don't want you to crumble because the world is crumbling around you, right? Okay.
Had Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth saying the department is closely tracking any military personnel who celebrated or mocked Kirk's death. You also had Secretary of State Marco Rubio similarly saying that the State Department would strip visas from anyone doing the same. And then as far as Trump, he's vowed to punish.
Is it Marco Rubio, the guy who laughed along with others at the White House at Zelensky for not dressing more presidential? That Marco Rubio who looked at a man whose country was being literally, who's in the middle of a war right now? That Marco Rubio in the White House? That JD Vance? That Trump who laughed at Zelensky for, quote, not dressing in a suit? Cool.
Quote, each and every one of those who contributed to this atrocity and to other political violence, including the organizations that funded and supported. And also, a really big thing here is that Trump's really only focused on attacks against conservatives and his allies. Right? That even though the wave of violence that we've seen in this country, it's been across the political spectrum. It's targeted Democrats and Republicans alike, but Trump, he's really only doubled and tripled down on this. Right? On Friday, he seemingly excused extremism on the right by arguing they're just motivated by a desire to reduce crime.
The radicals on the right oftentimes are radical because they don't want to see crime. The radicals on the left are the problem, and they're vicious, and they're horrible, and they're politically savvy. Although they want men and women sports, they want transgender for everyone, they want open borders.
And then with that, he called again for prosecutors to file racketeering
The fact that the president can go on Fox and Friends or whatever this is, Fox in the Morning, whatever the fuck that show is, and just show up and say that is ridiculous. That is ridiculous.
Charges against George Soros, right, one of the Democratic Party's biggest donors, claiming without evidence that he pays violent protesters. Then in Congress, he had Louisiana Republican Clay Higgins saying he'd push for immediate lifetime social media bans for anyone who belittled the assassination of Charlie Kirk, with him right.
Wow. Long-term social media bans for somebody who didn't mourn a man who wished bad upon them. Hey guys, follow me for free on Patreon where you can see updates. I think I'm good. I think YouTube's probably fine. I mean, YouTube let Fresh and Fit live here forever and just recently demonetized them. I mean, the worst people live on this platform, so I think I should be fine. But can you imagine what they want? Remember that.
On X. I'm also going after their business licenses and permitting. Their businesses will be blacklisted aggressively. They should be kicked from every school and their driver's licenses should be revoked. I'm basically going to cancel with extreme prejudice these evil, sick animals who celebrated Charlie Kirk's assassination. I'm starting that today. And then outside of the government.
And by the way, you should be worried about free speech in America because the same people who claim they're for it are absolutely going to take it away. Okay, Discourse said, are you telling me people's opinions have impact? Exactly. Yeah, I'm actually, like, honestly, yeah, it's going to be hard. The next 20 years, guys, I'm so sorry to say, it's going to be really hard. So I need you to lock in. Be kind, lock in, and focus on your future. Okay? Yeah, chat said, is this the abundance Ezra Klein was talking about? Ezra Klein, who just had Ben Shapiro on to talk about how to bridge the divide. Ben Shapiro. Never liked Ezra Klein. Never fucking liked Ezra Klein. Liberals, bro. Liberals would be more than happy to shake hands with fascists because they know at the end of the day, they're the pygmies. They're the pygmies. And we should never have gotten to this point Again, a better world is a world where liberals are fighting with leftists, not where Republicans are even in the mix. I'm sorry, not Republican people, but people with Republican values. Republican values are bigoted values, guys. I don't know what to tell you. But capitalists love it. Remember that. Capitalists love it. These liberal tech guys too, like Elon, who pretended he was a liberal for all that time, probably was, honestly. Yeah, these people are still capitalists. As long as you're pro-capitalism, you're still engaging in systems of oppression. That's why they're so afraid of anything but capitalism. They don't want to share. They don't want to share. Funny too. Just, oh God, the hypocrisy is insane. People don't know their values, but make sure you know yours. Hey, make sure you know yours, because I don't want you to think, like a lot of liberals and progressives do, that they know their values. Are you sure about that? Because Dean Withers is crying on TikTok. You sure about that? You sure you know your values? Because it's really easy to say you do until something comes knocking, until it really counts. So make sure you really know.
You had right-wing influencers like Laura Loomer, former Proud Boy leader Enrique Tarrio, and the Libs at TikTok account posting identifying details about people they claim celebrated Kirk's death. Or the group calling itself the Charlie Kirk Data Foundation, claiming to have identified over 60,000 extremists who have done so, and outlets reporting that many people are
The website is called Charlie Kirk's Killers, or Murderers, or whatever.
in fact losing their jobs over this. So the next up today, let's talk about a situation that many have been
Interesting that Phil called it that, because I've been seeing it called a different name.
calling a double standard in the media. So there is a
Okay, this is a story I covered yesterday, but I want to see Phil cover it.
lot of debate around this, and it does largely seem to be split by
Because I also want to just point out that Phil played a fencing game right here, because he's a journalist or a news guy, and I get it. But he played a little game where he said political violence is really on both sides. Is it, Phil? Tell me all the shooting deaths in America, how many of them were specifically liberal or leftist? Specifically leftist. You want to explain that to me? Because when Republicans talk about the extreme left, they're not talking about liberals. They're not talking about liberals. Because liberals are more than happy to throw trans people under the bus at the moment it becomes inconvenient. Look at Gavin Newsom. Wasn't Gavin Newsom's first podcast about with Charlie Kirk? Yeah. Liberals are going to throw you under the bus the moment you're too inconvenient for them.
left versus right. But the first thing up is former political analyst Matthew Dowd, who just got fired from MSNBC. Because what you saw is that the day that Kirk got shot, he reacted to the breaking news with this take.
We don't know any of the full details of this. That we don't know if this was a supporter shooting their gun off in celebration, or so we have no idea about this. He's been one of the most divisive, especially divisive younger figures in this, who is constantly sort of pushing this sort of hate speech or sort of aimed at certain groups. And I always go back to hateful thoughts lead to hateful words, which then lead to hateful actions.
What you saw is a lot of people.
That got him fired. That is the most philosophically sound thing anybody said this whole time. Yes, and I say this to you. Be very careful with hate in your heart. As Jesus himself preached, that was the most philosophically sound thing he could have said, and he was fired for it. What?
Interpreting that as him blaming Kirk for his own death, basically saying that Kirk brought this on himself, and it led the network to fire him, with NBC's president saying his remarks were inappropriate, insensitive, and unacceptable. With Dowd defending himself on Substack, saying he has consistently been opposed to political violence throughout his career, and writing, keep in mind when the anchor came to me to comment on the national environment, the only thing known at the time was shots were fired, and there was no reporting yet that Kirk was the targeter had been shot at. I said in the moment that we needed to get the facts because we have no idea what this could be, and that it could easily be someone firing a gun in the air to celebrate the event. Remember, Kirk is a diehard advocate of the Second Amendment. With him then also adding that even though most at MSNBC knew my words were being misconstrued, the network simply reacted to the right-wing media.
Because remember, capitalism will always win out. That's why they don't care about firing you for your beliefs. Because most businesses are capitalistic businesses. They don't care about you. So, unless it's your job, be considerate about speaking out and everything and posting things on social media. Because being an activist comes with there's consequences. Okay? So just think about that. I'm obviously in a position of privilege. I work for myself. Obviously, I understand I could be kicked off these platforms, and people are allegedly reporting my videos, but I'm also reporting them for harassment, because that's what's happening is I'm being harassed because I said something they didn't like, even though they said Charlie Kirk got shot for his opinions. Okay, but what are we doing here? Now, listen, people will hear me say yeah, I don't like that Charlie Kirk is being platformed, but notice that I didn't advocate or sign a list or make a list of people to be deplatformed. Noticed that I have never participated in the deplatforming of a person. Have I been sad that certain people have left the website? Not really, because most of them leave because they're really hateful. Okay, which is why I feel confident being here, because I know I'm not a hateful person. But the amount of bullshit that's allowed on this website is not ideal, but I'm not advocating for them to get kicked off. And that's the difference. I might personally say, yeah, it's not my favorite thing to log into YouTube every day and see headlines saying like why trans people are sick in the head. Yeah, that doesn't make me happy. But see how I'm not reporting the videos? I'm not thumbing it down. I'm not saying that we should sign a petition, because at the end of the day, like that's the difference. You're making lists. I'm not making a list. But now people say, Brittany, see, they're taking advantage of you because you're weak, because you won't make a list. Y'all, I'll be here for 70 years and then I'll die. I'm not going to spend the few years I have on Earth making lists of people who think differently than me. Okay? I'm going to focus that time on spending it with my loved ones, helping people in my neighborhoods, participating in local things. Like, I would rather die a good person than spend it being so riddled with hate that I become a bad one. I'm really trying to die a good person here.
And then also with everything here, you had many comparing his treatment to that of another mainstream media personality, and that is Fox's Brian Kilmeade. Because in this clip that first aired on Wednesday but only went viral on Saturday, the network's host discussing the Ukrainian refugee who was stabbed to death by that homeless man on a train in Charlotte. And you had Lawrence Jones giving his opinion first, and then Kilmeade, he jumps in at the end of the conversation with this remark.
They have given billions of dollars to mental health and the homeless population. A lot of them don't want to take the programs. A lot of them don't want to get the help that is necessary. You can't give them a choice. Either you take the resources that we're going to give you, or you decide that you're going to be locked up in jail. That's the way it has to be now.
That's so fucked up to even say you would lock them up in jail.
Involuntary lethal injection or something. Just kill them.
And the reactions.
I'm not allowed to say Kirk was a bad person, but he's allowed to say just kill them.
To that were both widespread and indignant. So you had the CEO of WIN, a group that runs homeless shelters in New York, blasting the suggestion as completely devoid of all humanity. They're then welcoming Kilmeade for a dialogue about the issue and adding, better yet, come volunteer in one of our shelters and see the face of homelessness for yourself. We could always use the help. You then also had Democrats slamming the Fox host, with Gavin Newsom, for example, quoting Proverbs 21:13. Whoever closes his ear to the cry of the poor will himself call out and not be answered. You then also had Representative Don Bayer writing, America's homeless population includes over 1 million children and tens of thousands of veterans, many of whom served in Iraq or Afghanistan. Nobody deserves to be murdered by the government for mental illness or poverty. These Fox hosts are calling for mass murder. It's sick. But then apparently getting to such a boiling point that on Sunday, Kilmeade, in a rare move for Fox, actually addressed the controversy on air.
In the morning, we were discussing the murder of Irina Zaruska in Charlotte, North Carolina, and how to stop these kinds of attacks by homeless, mentally ill assailants, including institutionalizing or jailing such people so they cannot attack again. Now, during that discussion, I wrongly said they should get lethal injections. I apologize for that extremely callous remark. I'm obviously aware that not all mentally ill homeless people act as the perpetrator did in North Carolina, and that so many homeless people deserve our empathy and compassion.
And then in reaction to that, you had many different responses. You had some saying that he shouldn't have apologized at all, that he was right to say what he said. Others then arguing that when you put it in context, it's clear that he wasn't talking about all homeless people, just the violent ones. So there you had people countering that, saying the context actually shows that he was talking about any homeless people who don't accept help or resources. And then finally, you had people calling his apology scripted, hollow, and insincere, and saying that regardless, he should still lose his job. Or with many arguing that if an employee on any other mainstream cable network said the same thing, they'd get fired. And you had some, like author and activist Shannon Watts, writing, Brian Kilmeade is advocating for extrajudicial killings on Fox, yet Matthew Dowd was fired by MSNBC for pointing out Charlie Kirk's dangerous rhetoric. This moral asymmetry in the media and online is destroying democracy. And then you had places like Mother Jones pointing out that Kilmeade has a history of apologizing for what have been called racist or inflammatory comments.
We keep marrying other species and other ethnics. The Swedes have pure genes because they marry other Swedes, because that's the rule. Finns.
Chat. Guys, liberals, stop watching me, bro. Chad said Newsom is more conservative than I would like, but I really like him standing up. At least he has a backbone, unlike the MAGA. His first podcast back was with Charlie Kirk. Gavin Newsom is not your friend. Fun fact, I've met him. He's not your friend. He is not. And the fact that the Democrat Party is wanting him to be the next president candidate, that's the point. He's not your friend. He's not a good person. He's not a good person. He was more than happy to do that collaboration with Charlie Kirk. He is more than happy to shake hands with Republicans. Absolutely not. Okay?
Marry other Finns, so they have a pure society. In America, we marry everybody.
Not every Muslim's an extremist, a terrorist, but every terrorist is a Muslim.
Like it or not, these aren't our kids. Show them compassion. But it's not like he's doing this to the people of Idaho or Texas. These are people from another country.
You know, with everything that we're seeing with this, I'd really love to know your thoughts and reactions. But then next step before we get
Okay.
This is
6 months ago, 1 million views.
Gavin Newsom. Charlie Kirk. What the hell are you doing here? What, by the way, what brings you to California, your favorite state?
It is my, this thing's falling. It is my favorite state in the union. You're doing such a great job here, by the way. No, I'm honored to be on the show. Thank you. And
you were just down at USC?
I was at USC yesterday, drew a big crowd.
By the way,
Okay? Okay? Don't give a fuck about Gavin Newsom. Wish him the best. I will not be voting for him. Thank you. Okay? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Okay, girls, do you have any questions or comments? That's all I got for you today. I did it. Get rid of the hate in your heart. And if you're angry, feed the homeless, the unhoused. If you're angry and you want to do something with it, say hi to somebody today. Compliment someone today. Hug somebody today. Be kind today. If you're angry, do something good with it. Be angry for the world, not at the world. Okay? I'll see you tomorrow. And I also have more BoJack coming out. I'm really excited. I got to edit it. I'm going to record another one right now. And then I'll get you BoJack for my members, okay? Thank you guys for being here. I appreciate it so much. Thank you for the super chats and joining memberships today. It really means everything. Okay? I know things are a little tense. But take care of yourselves. Okay? I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye. 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 You can listen to some Samantha Dragonetti on our way out. Links in the description. Bye.